Chapter 14:26. The two-headed shark moved. Qin Zhao moved too. Qin Zhao swung his legs and charged at the two-headed shark. He punched the shark's mouth. But in the sea, Qin Zhao's strength was reduced by 70 to 80% due to the water's resistance. Even so, the two-headed shark was still dumbfounded by Qin Zhao's punches. This small guy didn't seem to be easy to deal with. Run. Qin Zhao felt a thought in his mind. Qin Zhao's eyes narrowed. The emotion seemed to come from the shark. Qin Zhao understood animal language. At least, he understood most of the languages in the world. Of course, they didn't have a complete language system like humans did. They could only express simple emotions or intentions. This shark didn't express its emotions through words, but through its mind. Qin Zhao was confused. Where did this big guy come from? Was it a mutant? Or was it from another world? Don't run. Come back. Qin Zhao immediately moved his limbs and chased after the two-headed shark. The two-headed shark swam too fast. Qin Zhao used all his strength, but still couldn't catch up. Of course, the two-headed shark couldn't shake Qin Zhao off either. With one chasing and the other escaping, the two had already swum dozens of kilometers. Sharks had great stamina. Due to their special respiratory system, they didn't have gill covers, so they had to swim continuously to let the oxygenated seawater enter their bodies. It was impossible to expect a shark to be tired. Plus, this shark had eaten quite a lot in the sea outside Moon Beach. Qin Zhao felt that he had to be serious now. He definitely couldn't let this strange, two-headed shark stay at his house. It was too much of a threat to his family. If he wasn't around, Fei Lai and the others would play in the water and be bitten by the shark. His family would be ruined. Qin Zhao didn't want to regret it. Avinko, Danny, and their mercenary group were on a patrol boat. Danny, where's the target? Avinko asked. The target is 30 kilometers from us, in the sea to the left. Wait, it seems to be coming for us, Danny said, looking at the radar screen. It seems to be coming for us, another mercenary said. The others couldn't help but look serious. They had already fought several rounds with the two-headed shark at sea, and each time they returned empty-handed. They had also lost quite a number of people. The two-headed shark's cunning had also refreshed their understanding of it time and time again. This time he finally managed to plant a tracker on the two-headed shark. It was the first time in a long time that he had the initiative. But now this two-headed shark had taken the initiative to attack. This made them a little afraid. Confronting this two-headed shark head-on at sea was obviously a very unwise choice. They were mercenaries, although they had a lot of military weapons. But this was the sea, unless the two-headed shark rushed out of the water for them to fight. Otherwise, their weapons would pose little threat to the two-headed shark in the sea. Their patrol boat was only 10 meters long. If it was hit by the two-headed shark, it was likely to capsize. They had experienced this a few times before. Even bigger ships could be knocked over. This time, he chose the patrol boat mainly because the patrol boat itself was small, agile, and fast. It was extremely convenient to evade on the sea. Throw the mine down, Avinko said. This was also their original plan. According to the original plan, they planned to secretly track the two-headed shark, then throw a torpedo on top of the two-headed shark's head and use it to kill the two-headed shark. Actually, they had tried this a few times before. It had only worked the first time and injured the two-headed shark. The next few times, the two-headed shark became even more cautious. The two-headed shark's stamina was really strong. It had swum at such a fast speed for more than 100 kilometers. But it still showed no signs of slowing down. When Qin Zhao sped up, it sped up too. Qin Zhao was already planning to give up. There was no point in chasing it. Just then, the two-headed shark suddenly slowed down. Could it be that this fellow was tired from swimming? Qin Zhao immediately sped up and chased after it. But just when Qin Zhao thought that he was about to catch up to the two-headed shark, the two-headed shark suddenly swung its tail and sped up again. Then, the two-headed shark suddenly sank. Chen Zhao's heart jumped. Did it think that it couldn't go deeper? Chen Zhao dove into the deeper water. Just then, a force came from beside him. Chen Zhao was dumbfounded. The huge force knocked Chen Zhao off course. Then the force came continuously. Fuck, mine! Chen Zhao was dumbfounded. How could there be a mine here? This was already the outer sea. How could someone throw a mine here? Also, was this mutant shark a spirit? It must have lured him here on purpose, right? When Chen Zhao came back to his senses, the two-headed shark had already escaped without a trace. Chen Zhao floated to the surface, depressed. In the distance, he saw a patrol boat. It wasn't a coastal patrol boat. The mine had probably been thrown by that boat. Chen Zhao felt that the boat and the two-headed shark were together. Chen Zhao sprinted toward the boat. Boss, there's someone in the water. There's someone in the water? How is that possible? How can there be someone here? Could it be someone who fell into the water? That person swims really fast. He's approaching our boat. Avko took the telescope and looked at the sea. There was indeed someone swimming toward them in the waves. But now he was hesitant. Should he stop the boat? Where's the shark now? It's already left our vicinity, Danny said. Stop the boat, Avko said. By then, Chen Zhao had already swum to the patrol boat and jumped onto it. It's you. Avko and Danny recognized Chen Zhao. Wasn't this the monster-like man they'd met in Abilene, Kansas? Chen Zhao also recognized Avko and Danny. You two asterisk holes. You plotted against me? Chen Zhao stared at them angrily. Mr. Chen, what do you mean? When did we plot against you? Avko was very displeased with Chen Zhao's attitude. Nevertheless, he didn't want to have a conflict with Chen Zhao. After all, he and Danny had seen how terrifying Chen Zhao was. Boss, who is he? Doesn't he know where this is? Should we kill him and throw him into the sea to feed the sharks? Mobile version. Chapter 14:27. It was just like how the mercenaries were looking at Chen Zhao with evil intentions. Chen Zhao also looked at the mercenaries with evil intentions. Avinko and Danny broke out in cold sweat. If Chen Zhao hadn't boarded the boat, they might have thought about it. But now that Chen Zhao was on the boat, if there was a conflict on the boat, everyone on the boat would probably die. Mr. Chen, I don't know what you're talking about. We didn't plot against you. I was chasing a shark, Chen Zhao said, but you attacked me with a mine. You're chasing that shark too? Avinko was surprised and happy. Chen Zhao narrowed his eyes. You too? Chen Zhao wasn't being unreasonable. If he thought about it calmly, he could guess that the mine wasn't aimed at him. It was aimed at the two-headed shark. However, since they could detonate the mine so precisely, it meant that they had a way to accurately track the two-headed shark. We have a mission. You have a way to track the shark, right? Let's work together. You just need to help me find the shark. You don't have to do anything else. Sure. Yuvenko agreed without hesitation. Avinko's subordinates didn't like Chen Zhao, but Chen Zhao ignored them. However, the shaking of the patrol boat really made Chen Zhao uncomfortable. Seasickness was Chen Zhao's weakness. Lying on the deck, Chen Zhao said, I don't feel well. Call me when you find the shark. Avinko and Danny exchanged glances. They realized that Chen Zhao was indeed not himself. This caused the two of them to have their own thoughts. Just then, a mercenary came to their side. Boss, we found the shark. It's 12 kilometers to the right, 300 meters below sea level. With that, the mercenary looked at Chen Zhao, who was lying on the deck. Boss, who's that guy? A monster, Avinko said. Are you sure it's okay for our boat to chase the two-headed shark? The mercenary asked hesitantly. You have to know that we were piloting a 30-meter-long ship last time, but it was sunk by that two-headed shark. That depends on the man's ability. Avinko wasn't very confident either. The monsters he encountered at the construction site in Abilene, Kansas, were not as big as this two-headed shark. Avinko wasn't sure if Chen Zhao could handle it. Moreover, This two-headed shark was too cunning. Avinko had never dealt with such a difficult opponent. Boss, we're on top of the shark. Right now, the shark is swimming below us. Yavinko nodded and walked to Qin Zhao. Just as he was about to wake Qin Zhao up, the boat suddenly tilted at a 45-degree angle. Everyone rolled over, and most of them fell into the sea. Following that, 2 bloody mouths emerged from the water and sucked in 3 or 4 people. Avinko reacted quickly and grabbed the railing. Mr. Qin Zhao opened his eyes and saw a black shadow in the water. Qin Zhao dove into the water and grabbed the shark's fin. The two-headed shark sensed that there was someone on its back and immediately dove into the deep sea. It seemed like it wanted to kill him with the pressure of the deep sea. Unfortunately, Qin Zhao's water pressure was much stronger than it had imagined. Moreover, this was not considered a deep sea. It was at most 300 meters deep. It was far from its and Qin Zhao's limit. The two-headed shark sensed that Qin Zhao was still on its back and hadn't fallen off. It flipped over and rubbed its back against the bottom of the sea. Qin Zhao had to admit that he had never seen such a smart shark. This shark clearly wasn't an ordinary one. Qin Zhao didn't hold back this time. He punched the shark's back. The two-headed shark started struggling in pain. However, its form limited its attacks. It couldn't do anything to Qin Zhao on its back. 10 minutes later, the two-headed shark finally had no more strength to struggle. It flipped and floated to the surface. Qin Zhao also sat on the shark's abdomen. Just then, the patrol boat drove over. The boat had almost flipped over, but it hadn't really capsized. After all, modern boats all had a center of gravity. Unless it was hit by an absolute force, it wouldn't flip over. Otherwise, he would be able to adjust the gravitational field and reposition it. Avinko and the people on the boat saw Qin Zhao and the two-headed shark under him. How is it possible? The two-headed shark didn't eat him? How did he do it? Did he fight with the two-headed shark in the sea? And then you killed the two-headed shark? That's unbelievable. The patrol boat drove to Qin Zhao's side. Qin Zhao jumped onto the boat, but just then the two-headed shark, which should have been killed by Qin Zhao, flipped and dove into the deep sea. Fuck! I was tricked. Even Qin Zhao was dumbfounded. This was the first time he'd been tricked by someone. No, by a beast. He'd thought that although the two-headed shark had mutated, its characteristics should be the same as a regular shark. Regular sharks would suffocate if they stayed where they were for 30 seconds. But this shark had played dead for more than 10 minutes. Even Avinko and the others didn't expect the shark to be so cunning. Mr. Qin, track it. Track that shark. I'm going to slice it into pieces. Qin Zhao roared. Mr. Qin, you broke the shark's tracking device. What, you're blaming me? Qin Zhao was furious. He grabbed Avinko's collar. I didn't mean that. I have something to do. I'm leaving. Qin Zhao felt embarrassed. He really didn't have the face to stay here anymore. With a splash, he jumped into the sea. Avinko and the other mercenaries stared at Qin Zhao, dumbfounded. Boss, it's more than 100 kilometers from the coastline. That guy just jumped in like that? Avinko shook his head with a bitter smile. There was really nothing he could do about the two-headed shark. If even Qin Zhao couldn't handle it, staying here would only cause more losses for them. Avinko picked up the phone. Hello, sir, it's me, Avinko. Done. No, we'll give up on this mission. We can't do it. Please remember this book's domain name. Mobile version. Chapter 1428. Shameful, so shameful. He'd actually been tricked by a shark. When Qin Zhao swam back to Moon Beach, he saw a school of sharks gathering together. Qin Zhao's heart jumped. Theoretically, with Little Nine and Amon, 2 terrifying presences, these sharks shouldn't dare to come. But this school of sharks went back. Sharks didn't have the habit of staying at home. As long as the water was right and there was enough food, they could swim anywhere. Their natural tendency to avoid danger meant that once they discovered danger, they wouldn't appear in the same area again. However, this group of sharks continued to swim in the water. This was different from the habits of sharks. So, Chen Zhao suspected that there was something here that attracted the sharks. Chen Zhao dove into the water and followed the sharks. The leader of the sharks was a great white shark, more than 7 meters long. Behind, it was a group of sharks of different sizes and species. Usually, sharks of different species wouldn't stay together. Even sharks of the same species wouldn't stay together, especially medium and large sharks. They were usually alone. But these sharks didn't attack or tear each other apart. Chen Zhao followed far behind the sharks. At that moment, the sharks came to the cliff of a trench, and a cave appeared in front of them. The sharks dove into the cave, and Chen Zhao followed right after. Chen Zhao realized that the cave was very deep and rugged. Finally, they reached the deepest part of the cave. There was actually a shore in the deepest part of the cave, but there was a corpse on the shore. It wasn't a human corpse, but a demon's. When Chen Zhao was about to approach, he realized that a force was blocking him outside. Small world. Demon territory. This demon territory came from the demon's corpse. Demon territories and small worlds repelled each other. The sharks weren't stopped. They charged at the demon's corpse and started tearing at it. So they'd been attracted by the demon's corpse. Could it be that the two-headed shark also devoured the demon's corpse and mutated? But the two-headed shark couldn't have entered the cave with such a huge body, so it hunted its own kind. The greatest possibility was that the two-headed shark was the first shark to enter this place, and it was the first to grow and mutate. After that, because it was too big, it couldn't enter this place, so it began to attack and devour its own kind that wandered here. From there, he could obtain their demonic powers. This demon's corpse had been dead for an unknown period of time, but it had not rotted at all. However, one of its arms had already been bitten into pieces. However, even the largest great white shark could only tear off a very small piece of meat when it tried to tear it apart. Chen Zhao pressed forward. The demonic domain was very strong. It was even stronger than Chen Zhao's small world. Perhaps the small world did not represent the full strength of the opponent, but the small world still determined the outcome of the battle to a large extent. This demon was already dead, so why did his demonic domain still exist? Normally, when a person died, everything would disappear, including the demonic domain. Chen Zhao's heart skipped a beat. The modified version of the dazzling spell that the handsome guy had taught him could swallow other people's demonic domains. However, it could only swallow the demonic domain and small world obtained through external objects or tricks. If it was cultivated through one's own talent, it could not be swallowed. Chen Zhao didn't know whether the demon had obtained the demonic domain through tricks or had cultivated it himself. Chen Zhao started using dazzling spells. When magic arrays appeared one by one, the sharks discovered Chen Zhao. However, their instinct was not to attack Chen Zhao. Instead, they fled. Like children who had done something wrong, they scurried around the cave, crazily. The exit was blocked by Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao's aura also made them fearful. Dazzling spells started to corrode the demonic domain. However, the speed was very slow. Last time, Chen Zhao had used dazzling spells to corrode Kansmos's demonic domain, and it had only taken a few hours. However, this demonic domain was many times slower than last time. It seemed that this demon's demonic domain was his own. It was not obtained through external force or tricks. In theory, one's own demonic domain or small world should not be swallowed. However, this demonic domain was a helpless one. The reason for its existence was still unknown. The master of the demonic domain was already dead, but it was still operating. This gave Chen Zhao the chance to devour it. Chen Zhao did not know the reason, but this was a rare opportunity. Chen Zhao planned to spend some time to completely absorb the demonic domain. Gradually, as Chen Zhao absorbed the demonic domain bit by bit, his small world started to expand. It was different from the last time when he absorbed Mose's demonic domain. It was completely incompatible with his own small world. This ownerless demonic domain was merging with his own small world and expanding further. Chen Zhao's demonic domain was filled with the power of water. The power of water was turning into magic power and merging into his body. This was the same feeling as when his small world absorbed the spiritual qi of the world and merged it into his body. However, this time, Chen Zhao was absorbing the magic power from the water. Chen Zhao guessed that it was because the demon's demonic domain absorbed the magic power from the water that it could continue. Because it was soaked in seawater, the seawater gave the demonic domain infinite magic power. Thus, the demonic domain was maintained passively and did not dissipate with the death of its master. As Chen Zhao continuously devoured the demonic domain, it expanded. The original diameter of the small world was more than 30 meters. Now, it had expanded to more than 40 meters and was still expanding. This demon's demonic domain was much larger than Chen Zhao's small world. Just then, a voice sounded from Chen Zhao's earpiece. "Darling, where did you go? Do you need to prepare dinner tonight?" "I'm nearby," Chen Zhao said. "I'm dealing with the shark problem." "Oh, do you need me to prepare dinner for you?" "No," Chen Zhao said. "I think I can only go back after midnight." Chen Zhao did not want to give up halfway. He wanted to absorb and transform the demonic domain in one go. He was also familiarizing himself with the demonic domain's characteristics. Chen Zhao's heart jumped. Vortex, a whirlpool with a diameter of 3 to 4 meters, appeared around the great white shark's body, binding the great white shark. Please remember this book's domain name, Nine Heavens Divine Emperor Mobile Version. Chapter 1429. Chen Zhao's small world could allow him to fly, although he could only fly at a height of around 100 meters. This demon territory could allow Chen Zhao to control water flow. Rather than calling it a demon territory, it was more like a deep sea territory. As Chen Zhao devoured and transformed, the deep sea territory and the small world kept merging. The deep sea territory was unable to resist Chen Zhao's devouring. The devouring speed became faster and faster. It was much faster than he had expected. Chen Zhao used almost 10 hours to complete the deep sea domain and merge it with the small world. The small world had a diameter of 100 meters. This was a big gain for Chen Zhao. Putting aside the functions of the merged deep sea territory, just the area covered by the small world increased. So did Chen Zhao's magic power. Chen Zhao glanced at the sharks that he'd tortured. He didn't kill them. Instead, he tossed them out of the cave. Chen Zhao went to the demon's side. As the demon territory disappeared, the demon's body was rotting at an alarming rate. Chen Zhao understood that the demon territory and the demon's corpse had a mutually reinforcing relationship. The demon territory maintained the demon's corpse, while the demon's corpse maintained the demon territory. Once this balance was broken, both sides might collapse. Now that the demon territory had been taken by Chen Zhao, the demon's corpse also lost the support of magic. In the end, it couldn't escape the fate of rotting. In the end, only the skeleton was left. Chen Zhao put it away and went to the shore of the cave. A black trident stabbed into the rock. Chen Zhao pulled it out. It was so heavy. This trident probably weighed dozens of tons, right? Huh. Is this Poseidon's trident? Chen Zhao sent magic power into the trident. Instantly, the surrounding seawater started boiling. Chen Zhao felt that the black trident seemed to resonate with his magic power. Huh, this thing is not bad as my weapon. It's heavy enough and can control seawater. It looks like the legendary Poseidon's trident. But in the legends, Poseidon's trident was golden, while this trident was black. Moreover, the legendary Poseidon's weapon could split the sea. This black trident definitely didn't have that ability. This demon must have specially made this black trident for his own demon territory. Perhaps he'd studied Poseidon's trident. Qin Zhao came out of the cave. The sharks of different sizes were still outside the cave and hadn't left yet. However, Chen Zhao didn't feel any hostility from them. A few sharks circled around him. Go away, or I'll kill you. Chen Zhao suddenly realized that he wouldn't get water even if he spoke in the water. The sharks were so scared that they ran more than 10 meters away, but after a few seconds they turned back. They didn't dare to approach Chen Zhao, but they didn't want to leave either. They only dared to watch from afar. Was it because of his deep-sea domain? Chen Zhao took out a demon bone and tossed it to the biggest great white shark. The great white shark immediately opened its mouth and began to chomp. The other sharks also opened their mouths and surrounded Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao tossed a few bones to them. Come here, Chen Zhao ordered. A few sharks swam to his side. In fact, the intelligence of sharks was not low. In the sea, the intelligence of sharks was second only to that of killer whales. But most of the time, they were driven by their appetite. Chen Zhao took out a few bottles of wisdom potion and tossed them to the 5 sharks. They bit through the bottle and swallowed the potion. Without my order, don't hurt any humans, Chen Zhao ordered. If you understand, nod. The 5 sharks actually nodded at Chen Zhao, although nodding was a very difficult action for them. After all, sharks didn't have necks, but they still moved their heads up and down. There were 5 sharks before him. One was a 7-meter great white shark, and one was more than 5 meters long. The other 3 belonged to a small group. They were 3 rat sharks. The big one was more than 3 meters long, while the small 2 weren't even 2 meters. Go chase the other sharks away. Chen Zhao had a plan. He would have them act as guards here and patrol the nearby waters. After all, it wasn't easy for Amon to come to some shallow waters. Amon was more than 100 meters long and 15 meters tall now, so he couldn't move around in some shallow waters. With these 5 shark guards, they could be the patrol team here. Plus, the demon's corpse had disappeared, so it wouldn't attract sharks anymore. Chen Zhao didn't plan on getting more shark guards either. After all, if there were too many sharks, it would destroy the ecology of this area. Chen Zhao still liked the natural environment. At the same time, he could ensure the safety of his family. Just then, the 5 sharks suddenly grew nervous. A black shadow loomed over them. The 3 rat sharks were the most cowardly. They turned and fled immediately. The great white shark and the bull shark stared at the black shadow nervously. Without Chen Zhao's order, they didn't flee. On the other hand, Chen Zhao controlled the water flow and pulled the 3 rat sharks back. Come back. They're not enemies. Chen Zhao saw that Little Nine had returned. Little Nine, do you see them? From now on, the 5 of them will be your underlings. Protect them. Little Nine saw the 5 sharks. His 9 heads glowed fiercely. If Chen Zhao wasn't beside them, he probably would have attacked already. The 5 sharks were all very nervous. Thankfully, Little Nine was much smarter than them. After receiving Chen Zhao's order, he only threatened the 5 sharks a little. From now on, you're the 5 tiger generals. Chen Zhao playfully gave them a name. You're Guan Yu. Chen Zhao pointed at the great white shark and then at the bull shark. You're Zhang Fei, you're Ma Chao, you're Huang Zhong, you're Zhao Yin. Chen Zhao named them the 5 tiger generals according to their size, from oldest to youngest. Chen Zhao couldn't recognize them just based on appearance, especially the 3 identical rat sharks. They all had shifty eyes, so he could only distinguish them based on size. Follow Little Nine and patrol our territory. If you encounter other sharks, either bite and eat them or chase them away. With Little Nine leading the way, they didn't have to be afraid even if they encountered the mutated 2-headed shark. Little Nine was enough to deal with the 2-headed shark. Now that the demon's corpse had disappeared, the 2-headed shark might not come to this area again. The 5 tiger generals were all like wolves and tigers. They'd completely treated themselves as Chen Zhao's loyal dogs and followed his orders obediently. In the blink of an eye, they disappeared before Chen Zhao's eyes. Please remember this book's domain name, mobile version. Chapter 1430. Chen Zhao rubbed Fei and lay in the movie theater on the second floor, watching the finished movie that Stephen had sent over. Although Stephen's new movie had not been released yet, the post-production special effects and editing had already been completed. Outside the floor-to-ceiling windows was the vast starry sky, and below was the vast undulating sea. However, the soundproofing effect of the floor-to-ceiling windows was very good, and the sound of the tides outside could not be heard at all. "Darling, when are we going to look for Treasure Island?" Fei wanted to fulfill this wish before she went to work. She wanted to go on an adventure at sea. Chen Zhao scratched his forehead. "After Jerlin's birthday. Before that, let's buy a yacht together." "Okay." After watching the movie, he deleted it from the hard drive. The movie hadn't been released yet. Even if it was at home, it wouldn't leak out. Chen Zhao didn't want to take the risk either. It was better to be safe than sorry. The next day, Chen Zhao received a call from Ofer Lurby. "Mr. Chin, do you have time to come to the North Beach Pier? Our company has mobilized a few yachts from other cities. Please take a look and see if you're satisfied with any of them." The North Beach Pier had another name, the Yacht Pier. Generally, for large yacht transactions, the yacht company would mobilize yachts from other cities to the customer's city according to the customer's needs, and provide the customer with a tour and choice. If the customer was not satisfied, the yacht company would change another batch. Of course, if it was just a small or medium-sized yacht that cost $1 or $2 million USD, the yacht company would only show the customer the model and photos. Only after the customer had chosen the yacht would the real thing be delivered to the city. "Sure, I'll go over now." After hanging up, he asked, "Fei, do you want to go see the yacht?" Sure. Fei was quite free at home, so she decided to go look at the yacht and help Chen Zhao choose. Of course, the two of them had to bring little Jerlin and little Larissa along when they went out. When they arrived at the pier, it was filled with yachts of various sizes. Many private yachts were docked here. There were also many yacht companies that had rented some berths. And there will be 1 or 2 yacht fairs here every week. Every year, there would be 3 or 4 international yacht exhibitions. Even when walking around, a few salesmen would come over and ask if they wanted a yacht. There were brand new yachts and second-hand yachts. The United States had a lot of yachts. It could be said that half of the yachts in the world were in the United States. As the largest yacht market, the Americans' affection for yachts was similar to that for cars. Moreover, a consumer yacht was the same as a car. Once you got bored of it, you could sell it and buy another one. As a result, the yacht market was booming. Just this yacht dock alone had a flow of over 100 million every month. Apart from the super yachts, there were all kinds of yachts here. Chen Zhao and Fei each carried a child. They indeed looked like a family that had come to buy a yacht. Ofer Lurby saw Chen Zhao from afar and immediately ran over. He didn't want Chen Zhao to be targeted by other companies. Although he didn't see any representatives from other companies of the same level, there were many salespeople and representatives from large companies wandering around the pier. These people had a list of more than 70% of the rich people in the United States in their hands. As long as they saw someone familiar, whether there was a chance or not, they would go over to strike up a conversation. At the very least, they would give them a business card. Chen Zhao was a very important client of Seagate. In fact, he could be said to be the most important client for the next 3 years. "Mr. Chen." Ofer Lurby quickly ran to Chen Zhao. "Is this beautiful lady your wife?" "Yes." Chen Zhao nodded. "These 2 little princesses are your daughters, right?" Ofer Lurby asked. "Yes. This way, please. I also have 2 daughters." Ofer Lurby knew how to get close to clients. As they walked, he chatted with Chen Zhao. "But my eldest daughter is already in college. Do you know how I felt when I heard that she found a boyfriend in college?" "I've thought about it too," Chen Zhao said. "I think I'll kill that guy." The conversation between the 2 fathers was endless. Ofer Lurby also played to Chen Zhao's liking and kept talking about daughters. Mr. Chen, Ms. Fei Lai, there's a row here. 6 yachts are produced by our company. Each one is unique. Ofer Lurby pointed at a row. The 6 yachts were all large and about the same size. How about we board this yacht first? Sure. Chun Zhao and Fei Lai carried the child onto the yacht. Little Jerlin immediately wanted to get out of Chun Zhao's arms. Chen Zhao put Jerlin down, and she started running around on the yacht. Ofer Lurby followed Chen Zhao and Fei Lai, introducing the yacht's various data and prices. After a few minutes, Jerlin ran back to Chen Zhao, panting. Daddy hug. Chen Zhao picked up little Jerlin. Tired? Yes. Do you like this boat? Chen Zhao asked. No, Jerlin said, shaking her head. It's not as big as our original boat. Ofer Lurby's heart skipped a beat. It seemed that this family didn't like boats. However, the yacht under their feet wasn't small anymore. It was 165 feet long, with a maximum range of 3,000 nautical miles and a maximum cruising speed of 25 knots per hour. Chun Zhao looked at Ofer Lurby. I don't like this yacht either. I like a yacht that can be operated by a few people. It's best if it's highly automated. Of course. Smiling, Ofer Lurby said, it's my oversight. The 5 yachts behind can all be operated by one person. They're 80% automated. Bring us to the last yacht, Chun Zhao said. I like the big one. Because the last yacht was the largest of the 6, Chun Zhao was more inclined to it. Of course. Ofer Lurby nodded. But the price of the yacht, it's fine, Chun Zhao said. If I like it, I'll buy it. Ofer Lurby was a bit excited. The last yacht was already a super yacht. Seagate only had one ready-made super yacht right now. It could be considered the company's face. Mr. Chin, this yacht is called Hydra. Huh. Why is it called that? Is it ordered by some evil organization? Haha. Of course not. Ofer Lurby laughed. It's because this yacht uses a 9-cylinder engine. The 9-cylinder engine has the largest and highest power among all the engines of the same specifications. Chapter 1431. Orf Lobier's words were very fancy, but Chen Zhao didn't understand not at all. Chen Zhao didn't know much about these things, so he didn't understand these professional terms. Will my custom-made yacht be a 9-cylinder model? No. Orf Lobier shook his head. Mr. Chin, we plan to use a 24-cylinder super engine for your yacht, but we'll have to ask the German IFX company to customize it. It'll cost an estimated $80 million to develop. Chen Zhao was speechless. An engine was worth $80 million. One could imagine how much the entire yacht would cost. An engine costs that much too? We only have the technology right now, and it's in the hands of the German IFX company. We don't have a finished product yet, so we have to turn the technology into a product. At the same time, we have to design and modify it according to our specifications. It's a very big project, so the 24-cylinder engine isn't expensive. To put it bluntly, this engine technology wasn't suitable for most machines. Mass production was impossible. If the IFX company wanted to recover their cost, they could only raise the price and use custom-made services. But the design isn't out yet. Mr. Chin, let's talk about the yacht first. Okay, please continue. This yacht is called Hydra. It's 298 feet long and has a maximum height of 124 feet. It has a top speed of 45 knots per hour and a maximum range of 6,000 nautical miles. It has 21 bedrooms, 2 dining rooms, 1 entertainment room, 1 cinema, 1 30 by 30 swimming pool, and 2 helipads. All right, if Mr. Chin wants to buy this yacht, we'll give you an FB-99 helicopter. How much is the yacht? $88 million. Chen Zhao looked at Fei Lai. She quite liked the yacht too. Can we go to the restaurant for a bit? Fei Lai asked. On one hand, she felt that the yacht was really nice, but it wasn't cheap. At least, it was much higher than Chen Zhao's budget. However, this yacht was much bigger than their first yacht, Fei Lai. It was also called Hydra. Phalai felt that this yacht was fated with their family. Of course, Orf Lobier obviously didn't think that such a big deal could be settled with just a few words. Even if Chen Zhao didn't buy it in the end, he couldn't complain. The yacht was like a castle on the sea. It was between a large yacht and a super yacht. In Chen Zhao's eyes, this yacht was already very luxurious. If it was a super yacht, who knew how luxurious it would be? What's that opening for? That's where the speedboat is stored. As long as the yacht is docked there, the automatic machinery inside will pull the yacht in. Ofer Lurby continued. This yacht has fully automated navigation and navigation capabilities, and it can automatically check for malfunctions. In theory, one person can completely steer this yacht. In addition, the yacht is also equipped with a freshwater processor. In theory, as long as the freshwater processor is still working, the people on the yacht can survive even if they drift at sea for a year. Ofer Lurby's theory meant that the passengers on the yacht could catch fish from the sea to eat. That was why he said it was a theoretical possibility. In reality, it was impossible. Even if they could catch enough fish to fill their stomachs, relying on sea fish alone was not enough to provide all the nutrients the human body needed. Of course, Ofer Lurby was only stating a possibility, and he was also stating the superiority of the yacht. I really like this yacht. Phalai, what do you think? If you think it's okay, then buy it. Ofer Lurby's heart almost jumped out. He thought that Chen Zhao would need a few more days to consider. He did not think that Chen Zhao would make the decision so easily. This wasn't a small deal. Dad, why don't you ask me if I like it? Jerlin crossed her two short arms in front of her chest unhappily. Ofer Lurby cursed inwardly. He had almost forgotten about this little girl. He had been talking too much with Chen Zhao and Phalai and had forgotten about this little girl. Jerlin, what do you think about this yacht? I like it too. Jerlin did not need the right to decide. She only wanted to be respected. Even though she was only 1 year old, she still cared about this. Only when she was involved in the family's decisions would she feel important. Okay, then, Mr. Ofer, if you can remove the small change, I think I can pay now. Orf Lurby didn't hesitate much. $88 million. Even if it was a fraction, it was within his power to make the decision. Of course, Mr. Chen. I'm glad that you like this yacht. Ofer Lurby suppressed the joy in his heart. How do you plan to pay? Cash in full, Chen Zhao said. Ofer Lurby sucked in a breath of cold air. $80 million in one go. Even the super rich might not be able to take out so much money in such a short time. Then, Chen Zhao had Phalai and Jerlin stay on the yacht while he and Ofer Lurby went to sign the contract and pay. Half an hour later, Ofer Lurby shook hands with Chen Zhao. Mr. Chen, Hydra belongs to you now. Thank you. I should be the one saying thank you, Ofer Lurby said. Is there anything else I can do for you? Help me fill up the yacht and send it to my house. Of course. Ofer Lurby also wanted to use this opportunity to visit Chen Zhao at his house and get closer to him. Chen Zhao was a super client of his company. Just Chen Zhao's identity as a super rich was enough for him to rope him in. After all, every super tycoon had a huge network of connections. Stephen was the one who had introduced Chen Zhao to him. This is my address. We'll be leaving now. Okay, goodbye. I'll send the yacht tomorrow. Although they could drive it to Chen Zhao's house right now, it was a big company. They still needed to give the yacht a full checkup before handing it over. Otherwise, if Chen Zhao found some small problems after the delivery, it might affect their future cooperation. Therefore, the checkup was necessary. After Chen Zhao left, Ofer Lurby gathered his engineers and maintenance team to do a thorough inspection of the entire yacht. Even a loose screw had to be replaced. Ofer Lurby did not want any problems to happen here. Chapter 1432. The Hydra slowly docked at the Moon Pier at the bottom of the cliff. The water here was deep enough, so it was suitable for a pier. Looking at the villa on the cliff, Ofer Lurby exclaimed inwardly, as expected of a rich person. The long, narrow, and high-quality private beach was already very expensive. It was also a very complicated project to build the villa in such a location. It wasn't that Ofer Lurby hadn't met rich people before. In fact, he couldn't even count the number of rich people he'd met. However, the owner of this villa had a rare personality. Actually, not every rich person knew how to enjoy life. For many rich people, their greatest joy wasn't to enjoy life, but to earn money. Earning money was their greatest joy. However, the villa before him was filled with a wild imagination. It had a high-tech appearance and a special location. It didn't seem to be a building of this time and space. This was life. When Ofer was rich, he would definitely buy a piece of land like this and build a house like this. In fact, Ofer Lurby was rich. As an executive of Seagate, he earned at least $3 million a year. This was already an income that most people in this world couldn't reach. However, people always competed and had their own desires. Ofer Lurby got off the boat and walked past the pier. When he arrived at the elevator, the doors opened. When Ofer Lurby and the Hydra arrived, the butler had already reminded Qin Zhao. This was the function of the butler system. Every visitor would be notified to the owner. "Hello, Mr. Qin." Ofer Lurby looked around and realized that Fei Lai and their children weren't at home. Only Qin Zhao was sunbathing on a chair in the yard. A huge brown bear lay beside him. Ofer Lurby was shocked, but he quickly calmed down. Wasn't it normal for rich people to like to raise strange animals? He'd even seen people raise lions and tigers. "Isn't Miss Fei Lai home?" "Fei Lai and the kids are playing on the beach." Ofer Lurby turned his head and saw a figure on the beach. How did it feel to have such a large beach occupied by one person? Qin Zhao stood up. "Please sit. Want some wine?" Qin Zhao asked. "Thank you," Ofer Lurby replied politely. Suddenly, he saw that the bottle beside him didn't have a label. "Nameless wine? Is this the drink of this super-rich man?" Oliver Lawbill took a sip of the red wine. It was indeed a nameless wine. He had tasted the nameless wine before. The wine's aroma and taste were exactly the same as the one he had tasted before. Of course, Orford Labier knew about the nameless wine. His company also used the nameless wine to entertain VIPs. The last time Qin Zhao went to their company, they had treated him with nameless wine. However, the nameless wine was too expensive, and the key point was that it was difficult to obtain. Therefore, even a powerful company might not be able to use the nameless wine to entertain important guests every time. "Mr. Qin, do you need to familiarize yourself with the operation of the yacht?" Orf Lurby asked. "All right." Qin Zhao nodded. "I need to feed my pet too. Princess, bring the beef out." To Ofer Labier's surprise, Princess returned, dragging the wrapped beef into the elevator. "Mr. Qin, what kind of pet are you going to feed? You actually want to use beef?" "Shark." Mr. Qin really likes to joke. With the help of the princess, 2 tons of beef were delivered to the yacht. Qin Zhao and Orf Lurby also boarded the yacht. Orf Lurby started to explain the operation of the yacht to Qin Zhao. Yachts nowadays weren't as technologically advanced as 10 years ago. They needed a dozen sailors. Yachts nowadays were all about simplifying the most complicated operations. In other words, it was like an idiot's operation. Of course, the yacht itself also had manual control, but that wasn't part of the teaching. After trying it once, Qin Zhao had already learned most of it. Then, Qin Zhao stopped the boat. "Here." Qin Zhao turned and walked out of the cockpit. "Mr. Orf, help me lower the lift at the stern." "Okay, Mr. Qin." Usually, the stern of a large yacht was very low and had a lift function. Qin Zhao and Princess dragged the 2 tons of beef and opened the foil packaging. Orf Lurby also came over, wanting to see if he could help. Qin Zhao clapped his hands. Just then, a few fins appeared in the water. "Shark, Mr. Qin, it's a shark." "Leave the stern." Orf Lurby yelled in shock. He also ran away from the stern. It's fine. They're my pets, Qin Zhao said casually. Guan Lao Da, one of the 5 great generals, was the first to leap onto the back of the boat and land on the deck. Orf Lurby almost peed his pants. A great white shark. That's a great white shark. Qin Zhao grabbed a large piece of beef and tossed it to Guan Lao to go down. Don't be greedy. Zhang Fei, it's your turn. Guan Yu turned around and went into the water. Then Zhang Fei's tiger shark flopped onto the deck. Orf Lurby didn't find this interesting. He only felt scared. He was afraid that the sharks would bite Qin Zhao and drag him into the water. However, to his surprise, the sharks seemed to be very obedient as they moved up and down. They didn't have any intention to attack either. Qin Zhao and Princess fed the sharks, and they would go into the water after getting their share. Just when Orf Lurby thought that Qin Zhao had finished feeding, the great white shark suddenly jumped up again. But this time, there was a bluefin tuna in the shark's mouth that had already been bitten to death. The shark loosened its mouth and tossed the bluefin tuna onto the deck. Then it turned and slid into the water. Orf Lurby sucked in a breath of cold air. Wasn't this shark too smart? It knew how to please its master? Also, such a big bluefin tuna must be worth at least a few $100,000, right? Bluefin tuna was one of the most expensive ingredients in the world. Due to its huge economic value and human overfishing, it had become rarer and rarer in recent years. The bigger the bluefin tuna, the more valuable it was. With Orf Lurby's eyesight, this bluefin tuna was at least 650 kilograms. This was basically the maximum size of a bluefin tuna. There might not even be one bluefin tuna of this size caught in a year in the entire world. Mr. Orf, stay and eat raw fish with us later. Of course, it's my honor, Orf Lurby exclaimed. Chapter 1433. What was enjoyment? Treating luxury goods like daily necessities. Orf Lurby was truly shocked by Qin Zhao's extravagant lifestyle. Qin Zhao had only given him a few sips of the nameless wine, which cost $300,000 per bottle. This bluefin tuna probably couldn't even be bought for $500,000. After all, a 250-kilogram tuna sold for 70 million yen in Japan 2 years ago, which was about 455 renminbi. Now, Qin Zhao had treated him with such a huge tuna. Qin Zhao had probably spent more than $1 million on treating him for the day. Were all rich people this extravagant? In fact, Qin Zhao didn't even have the intention to treat Orf Lurby. He was just acting as a normal guest and doing his duty as a host. Fei Lai couldn't eat a lot of food when she was pregnant. This time, Fei Lai didn't have to worry about anything. Of course, the bluefin tuna still had to be specially processed. After all, bluefin tuna meat had a certain amount of excessive heavy metals. In Japan, many people would get brain hemorrhages from eating sashimi every year. It was because they'd eaten too much excessive heavy metals. If the heavy metals were ingested into the human body, it was very difficult to remove them. With current medical technology, there was almost no effective treatment. The body could only remove the heavy metals naturally. However, if it was an unprocessed ingredient, there was a way to remove the heavy metals. Orf Lurby received the perfect treatment. Other than the bluefin tuna and the nameless wine, Orf Lurby also ate unparalleled food. He didn't know what ingredient it was, but he believed that it was definitely the best. After all, even bluefin tuna sashimi couldn't compare to the taste. Mr. Orf, my eldest daughter Jerlin's birthday is on the 15th of this month. I'll hold a party and welcome you. Of course, it'll be my honor. Under the setting sun, the scenery on the sea was extremely beautiful. There were also girls laughing and running under the setting sun. They were all so enviable. This was life. Only with money could one obtain such a beautiful life. Orf Lurby didn't disturb Qin Zhao too much. After dinner, the car arrived to pick him up. Orf Lurby left reluctantly. Qin Zhao called Gurette. Hey, Gurette, it's me. Chen, what's up? Guret had a good impression of Chen Zhao. It was mainly because Chen Zhao had kept his word. In their previous 2 collaborations, Chen Zhao had brought her huge benefits. Moreover, he didn't take advantage of Chen Zhao, so Guret was looking forward to working with him again. My daughter's birthday is on the 15th of this month. Do you want to come? Of course. Gu Lai thought about it. He had nothing to do anyway. Oh, one more thing, Chen Zhao said. What is it? What do you know about Treasure Island? Gu Lai's eyes widened abruptly. You want to find the legendary Treasure Island? Yes. Before the 15th, I will help you collect all the information about Treasure Island. I guarantee that it will be the most comprehensive information in the world. The premise is that if we can find Treasure Island, I want a share of it. Sure. Since Chen Zhao had called, he was prepared to work with Guret. Chen Zhao had also tried to find information about the island himself. But after trying, he realized that he was too naive. Even professional explorers and pirates might not be able to find information about Treasure Island, let alone a layman like Chen Zhao. Therefore, Chen Zhao had to seek help from a professional. Guret was the professional. Chen Zhao actually didn't have many requirements for this expedition. First, he had to ensure Fei Lai's safety, not to mention the island. Okay, I'll wait for your good news. Since they had an agreement, Guret naturally started moving too. She already had some understanding of Chen Zhao from their previous 2 collaborations. As long as both parties could do their jobs and keep their promises, Chen Zhao would definitely follow them. Tonight, Chen Zhao didn't accompany Fei Lai. Instead, he entered the river map. Old Turtle, it's my daughter's birthday. Shouldn't you do something? There's still a few decades, Old Turtle said disapprovingly. What's the rush? For Chen Zhao, it was only a dozen days, but for Old Turtle, who was in the river map, there were still decades. Old Turtle, give me another internal alchemy. It'll be Jerlin's birthday present. Do you want it, or your daughter? Old Turtle rolled his eyes. Clearly, Chen Zhao wanted it himself. That's what I want. Chen Zhao didn't feel embarrassed at all. Then you can have this. It's Jerlin's birthday. Don't ask me for a birthday present again. We'll talk about it later. There's still a few decades. Hearing Chen Zhao's words, Old Turtle's eyes widened. He stared at Chen Zhao in anger. Oh, Old Turtle, do you have a way to make the internal alchemy float in the air? I don't, Old Turtle said immediately. Chen Zhao didn't know if he really didn't have a way or didn't want to help. Old Turtle, don't be so stingy. Teach me. Teach my ass. You can maintain it with a magic array, but you'll need at least 100 years to learn a magic array that can make my internal alchemy float. Do you have that much time? Even in the river map. Is there any other way? Yes. Release the internal alchemy's spiritual chi and let it float on its own. But no matter how worthless my internal alchemy is, you can't waste it like this. I've cultivated for 1,000 years to make each internal alchemy. If you waste it like this, you'll run out of spiritual chi in less than 10 years. If you really want to waste it like this, give it back to me immediately. I won't let you waste it. Fine, fine. Chen Zhao immediately stuffed the internal alchemy Old Turtle had just given him into his spatial ring. He knew that if he just left it there normally, the internal alchemy would form a cycle. It would absorb as much spiritual chi as it emitted. At the same time, it could fill up the surrounding spiritual chi. Basically, as long as it wasn't used too much, the internal alchemy wouldn't be damaged, so Old Turtle didn't mind. But the internal alchemy represented Old Turtle's cultivation. Old Turtle was willing to give it to Chen Zhao because the internal alchemy wouldn't be used up. The cultivation was still his cultivation. But if Chen Zhao used it to waste, no matter how high his cultivation was, it would run out one day. Chen Zhao could only give up on the idea of creating an artificial moon above his Minghua villa. Back then, Chen Zhao had this idea because of what Jerlin had said. Chapter 1434. Your world seems to have grown a lot bigger. Old Turtle could feel that Chen Zhao's world had grown bigger. However, he didn't feel any other changes. Apart from those that could cause strange phenomena, Chen Zhao's world that couldn't be seen could only be judged by perception. If Chen Zhao hadn't done anything, even the extremely powerful Old Turtle wouldn't have known about the changes in his world. That was why he thought that Chen Zhao's world had changed so much, because he'd been cultivating hard. Chen Zhao didn't know what Old Turtle was thinking. He told Old Turtle what had happened. It meant that he'd absorbed a demon's demon territory. Your ability is very rare. Old Turtle looked at Chen Zhao. It was similar to the dark North divine art in wuxia novels. However, there definitely wouldn't be many worlds for Chen Zhao to absorb. After all, how many people in the modern world could reach this state? They could be counted on one hand. Do you remember the simplified version of the clone I taught you? Yes, why? How could Chen Zhao forget? After all, the clone was one of his ultimate skills. Chen Zhao often used it when fighting enemies. With your current cultivation, you can cultivate the regular version of the clone. Chen Zhao's eyes brightened. That means I don't have to create 12 naked men every time I use it? Chen Zhao didn't have high requirements for combat power, but the problem was that it was 12 naked men every time he used it. What the hell was that? First, you have to be clear, Old Turtle explained. Using a clone will consume a large amount of your spiritual power, which will greatly decrease your strength. Chen Zhao's heart jumped. He vaguely grasped the key point. You got it. So, unless I can recover my spiritual power quickly, I shouldn't use the clone? That's right. Old Turtle nodded. That's why I didn't teach you, even though you could already use the real avatar. If you use it in an important battle and you run out of energy, then once the avatar is defeated, you'll be a piece of meat on the enemy's chopping board, waiting to be slaughtered. Then what's the difference between the real clone and the simplified version I'm using now? First of all, there's the difference in strength. Your avatar can use all the spells and abilities you know. Can I use a doppelganger? Chen Zhao asked. Sure. Old Turtle nodded. If you use your body double to create a clone with the same strength as you, he can also use the same body double. He also has a small world. No, you don't have a pocket world, Old Turtle said. The pocket world was created by your main body, so you can't use it. In that case, apart from the small world, the doppelganger can use any spells, including the external incarnation. In other words, I can be like you and continuously create avatars without limit? That's right in principle, but that's not the case in reality. No one can create an unlimited number of them. Why can't it be infinite? Because spiritual power can't appear out of thin air. The spells used by the doppelganger also extract spiritual power from you. When your spiritual power is sent to the doppelganger will be partially consumed. The doppelganger will then send it to its own doppelganger, and the spiritual power will be consumed again. This cycle repeats. Every time a doppelganger is created, the amount of spiritual power you need to consume will increase. How many times do you think you can maintain this? Then how can you create so many doppelganger? Chen Zhao had seen Old Turtle create hundreds of thousands of doppelgangers. Stupid. I can create 100 doppelgangers at once. Then 100 doppelgangers create 100 more doppelgangers, and 100 more doppelgangers create 100 more doppelgangers. That's 1,000,000. If I use all my strength, I can create a few more doppelgangers. That's more than the population of Earth. Chen Zhao was completely speechless. This wasn't just a difference in quality, but also in quantity. If you teach me the real external incarnation chant, I think I can also create tens of thousands of clones. Old Turtle rolled his eyes. I'm guessing you can't have more than 8. That's impossible. I could create 12 doppelgangers before. How can I have fewer practicing the real version? I taught you the simplified version because your cultivation wasn't high enough. So the doppelgangers you created were also 12-week chickens. In reality, the real body double's consumption is many times greater than the simplified version. Let's not talk so much. Teach me first. Qin Zhao was defeated by Old Turtle. It was the same spell, but why was there such a huge difference? Old Turtle could create more doppelgangers than the population of the world, but Chen Zhao couldn't even reach a single digit? Wasn't this too cruel? The real body double mantra was much more complicated than the simplified version. Just memorizing the mantra took Qin Zhao more than 10 days. All he said was cultivation and practice. Transform. Chen Zhao quickly made a hand seal. Whoosh! A figure appeared beside Qin Zhao. It looked exactly like Qin Zhao. No, this body double doesn't even have 10% of your strength. Plus, you used 2 seconds to cast the spell. Old Turtle pointed his finger and killed the clone. Qin Zhao screamed. The body double was a doppelganger, but they shared Chen Zhao's senses. They wouldn't kill Qin Zhao after killing the doppelganger, but they shared pain. Continue, Old Turtle shouted. Transform. Qin Zhao cast again. Old Turtle pointed again. Same problem as before. No improvement. Whoosh, still no change. Still no change. Casting speed is faster, but it's still not enough. No change. No change. 10 times, 20 times, 30 times, 40 times. Finally, Chen Zhao could increase his casting speed to less than 1 second. I'll demonstrate it for you. Watch carefully, Old Turtle shouted. In an instant, 1 became 2, 2 became 4, 4 became 8, 8 became 16. The entire process took less than 1 second. According to Old Turtle standards, Qin Zhao's speed didn't pass. Continue practicing. Prepare enough spiritual power and release at the moment you cast. Continue. No, continue. No, continue. Not bad. This time, this doppelganger has 50% of your strength, but it's not at the same level as your real body. Plus, your casting speed has clearly slowed down. Continue. Please remember this book's domain name. Mobile version. Chapter 1435. 1,695 times. Change, change, change. In an instant, 1 became 2, 2 became 4. But when 2 became 4, Chen Zhao's mana clearly couldn't keep up. When 2 became 4, the 4 clones were much weaker. No, are these for just decorations? How weak are they? 1,999 times. Too slow. 6 seconds in total. Speed up. 2,788 times. No, continue. 3,358 times. Change, change, change. Finally, Qin Zhao completed 2 rounds of clones in 1 second. 1 became 2, 2 became 4. Including the original, there were 7. Chen Zhao wanted to break through the 8 Old Turtle had mentioned, but he couldn't do anything if he kept changing. If he wanted to double his base of 4, he would need to double his mana value. That was the most he could do right now. However, 6 clones and 1 original were equivalent to 7 complete Qin Zhaos. The 6 clones knew all the spells that the original knew. Of course, if they attacked at the same time, the mana consumption would be 10 times higher. This was because the transfer of mana between the original and the clones would be consumed. This was also why Chen Zhao couldn't clone anymore. Spell returned to 1. The 6 clones were enveloped by the dark lava and fused into Chen Zhao's body. They had 6 times the original's strength and resistance. The original version only had 4 times the original strength when the 12 clones used spell returned to 1. The original version, on the other hand, had 6 times the original strength. Qin Zhao cancelled spell return to 1, and the 6 clones appeared again. The 6 clones also had their own dark lava. The amount was the same as the original. Qin Zhao's heart jumped. 1,000 swords control. The 6 original bodies and clones controlled 1,000 stone swords at the same time. The difficulty dropped by several times. Each body only had 100 or so stone swords. However, Qin Zhao wasn't satisfied. This meant that the technique of 1,000 swords control had improved, but the power hadn't. Old Turtle, help me forge another 6,000 stone swords. I've already prepared them for you. The 7 bodies used 1,000 swords control at the same time. The 7,000 stone swords were like a flood. Qin Zhao was overjoyed. This was the feeling, this feels great. Qin Zhao felt like he could fight against a modern army. 7,000 stone swords danced in the air, and they could coordinate with each other. The clone had strengthened Qin Zhao's combat ability. Rather, it could be said that his group attacks had reached an unparalleled level. Your fighting style is a little weak. If you knew more magic, you could use the cooperation of a few clones to defeat stronger enemies. Old Turtle, your way of thinking is outdated. Even if your fighting style is simple, the improvement is real. It was just like the famous 5 Fireball God sect in the online game that he had played in school. Even if it was the simplest fireball technique, multiplied by 5 times, it would still be able to kill anything in its way. If Qin Zhao chose to give up his best fighting style for the sake of the cooperation between his clones and his main body, it would be a little like sacrificing his roots. If he had the time, he might as well train his own strength. Of course, what satisfied him the most was that his clones finally didn't have to run around naked anymore. Qin Zhao used 10,000 spells, returned to one again, and took out the black trident. The weight of the black trident was just right for Qin Zhao. He hadn't weighed it before, but it felt very comfortable to him. It could even be said that he had never used such a weapon before. Qin Zhao sent his magic into the black trident. The water vapor in the air started gathering. Soon, a blue ball of water with a diameter of 1 meter appeared above the black trident. This was the ability of Qin Zhao's pocket world. It could automatically gather the water elements in the air. However, although Qin Zhao could control water elements with the pocket world before, he couldn't gather them into a ball. Did this mean that the black trident had this ability? After thinking about it, it wasn't hard to understand. The black trident and the deep sea domain originally belonged to the same master. Thus, it wasn't hard to understand why the black trident had this ability. However, if it was in the sea, the power of this move could be dozens of times stronger. Qin Zhao swung the black trident forward. The water ball spun at high speed and flew forward. As the water ball spun, it constantly shot out water droplets. Each water droplet was as lethal as a bullet. Qin Zhao had an idea. He jogged to the river. Another water ball was formed. This time, the diameter was many times larger than before. He swung the black trident forward, and the water ball spun rapidly again. This time, it was even more powerful. The water droplets shot out in all directions. Qin Zhao frowned. This move was powerful, but it could hurt his own people too easily. Qin Zhao couldn't do anything about it. The water droplets shot out completely based on inertia. Their biggest feature was that they were densely packed and couldn't be aimed. It couldn't be like West's field of slowness, which could be controlled by West consciously so that his companions wouldn't be affected. There's a curse on your weapon. Surprise appeared in Old Turtle's eyes. Why didn't you get rid of the curse? What curse? I didn't notice. I feel like it's very smooth. This isn't your weapon, right? No, it's from the previous owner of the deep sea domain. I picked it up for free. Oh, I see. Old Turtle nodded. The previous owner must have left a curse on it before he died. If you don't get rid of the curse, you can't pick up the weapon. Can't pick up the weapon? Qin Zhao was shocked. But why can I pick it up? Nonsense. Even spells have their limits. The so-called being unable to lift it is only applicable to ordinary people. If ordinary people haven't broken the spell on this weapon, of course, they won't be able to lift it, let alone use it. Qin Zhao was enlightened. So that's why. Qin Zhao had thought that the demon from before was the same type as him, a strength-enhancing demon that needed such a heavy weapon. It turned out that the black trident was so heavy because of the spell. "Do you want me to get rid of the curse?" Old Turtle asked. "It's not hard. No, I think it's better like this." What a joke! If he got rid of the curse, the weapon would lose its weight and become useless to Qinzhao. It would become a magic ritual implement. Although it could amplify water spells to Qinzhao, it would lose its most important close combat function. Please remember this book's domain name, Nine Heavens Divine Emperor Mobile Version. Chapter 1436. The next day, Qinzhao went to the headquarters early in the morning. He planned to challenge the 8th level of the Tower of Trials. Last time was Qinzhao's first failure. But that wasn't a true failure. In fact, it wasn't completely impossible for him to pass the 8th level. The strongest move of the frenzied ocean demons on the 8th level was to combine thousands of them into one move. But this move had a fatal flaw. It was ineffective against people who were flying. After all, the waves that the frenzied ocean demons could create were at most 100 meters in the sky. If Qinzhao flew directly into the sky, the frenzied ocean demons wouldn't be able to do anything to him. Qinzhao could totally avoid the first wave of attacks and then counterattack. The reason why he hadn't used other methods was mainly because of his obsession. Some things couldn't be avoided. If he encountered a situation that he had to face, he wouldn't even have the power to escape. For example, if his family was behind the waves, could he still escape? Qinzhao hoped that no matter what problem he faced, he wouldn't just choose to escape. Qinzhao greeted the people from the headquarters and entered the Tower of Trials. "President, you're probably here to pass the 8th level, right?" Judging from his expression, he's clearly prepared. "Sai, when can I pass the 1st level?" Padya said in despair. As the successor of the shaman's battle dance, Padya had no combat ability at all, so it was basically impossible for her to pass the 1st level alone. Qinzhao entered the 8th level and took out his black trident. It was still a boundless ocean. Soon, a black shadow appeared under Qinzhao's feet. It was the same as the first time Qinzhao had come to the 8th level. A lone frenzied ocean demon had attacked. Qinzhao swept down with the black trident. A huge force swept across, and the lone frenzied ocean demon was smashed into pieces. Then, a white wave appeared on the distant horizon. "It's here." Just like last time, thousands of frenzied ocean demons had come. Qinzhao tapped the black trident lightly on the surface of the sea. He calmly waited for the wave to come. Closer and closer, closer and closer. He could already see countless frenzied sea demons stirring up waves in the boundless waves. Finally, the huge wave reached Qinzhao. Just like last time, Qinzhao was about to be killed instantly. Just inches away, Qinzhao suddenly lifted the black trident and drew an arc on the surface of the sea. However, this breath was nothing compared to the huge wave. But as the arc was thrown out, it grew larger and larger. It was like a sharp blade cutting through the inner wall of a huge wave. Starting from his feet, the water parted, extending all the way to the top of the huge wave. The huge wave was completely cut apart. The giant waves were raised by the frenzied ocean demons, and when thousands of them raised the giant waves at the same time, there was some kind of connection between them. But now, because of Qinzhao's interference, this balance had been destroyed. The originally boundless waves collapsed in an instant. Qinzhao's eyes lit up. Success! Qinzhao glanced around. Countless frenzied sea monsters were tumbling in the water. It seemed that they were planning to regroup and use the same trick again. He could only do it once. There was no point in doing it again. Qinzhao didn't plan on giving them another chance. He lifted the black trident and dove into the water. A frenzied ocean demon pounced over. Qinzhao swung the black trident. There was no seawater resistance. Qinzhao realized that when he swung the black trident in the water, its power wouldn't be absorbed by the water. This was much more convenient than just swinging his fists. Last time, When Chun Zhao had chased that mutated two-headed shark, his fists actually couldn't kill it. Because of the seawater resistance, the power of Chun Zhao's fists was greatly reduced. But it wouldn't be the case this time. Swinging the black trident in the water was more comfortable than in the air. It was like there was no resistance at all. The individual strength of the frenzied ocean demons wasn't weak, but they weren't that strong either. Their strongest killing move was their combined attack. Their individual damage was too limited. Soon, the entire sea was dyed red. The corpses of the frenzied ocean demons floated on the surface. 1,000. Chen Zhao didn't make a mistake. At most, he could just add a few more. As expected, Chen Zhao received a notification. Level 8 of the Tower of Trials. Score, SS. Chen Zhao didn't know when the frenzied ocean demon had touched him, but there was no SS. But Chen Zhao wasn't a crazy demon for points. Recently, there was a trend in the association. Most people had passed the first level but were stuck on the second, so they all ran back to the first to farm points. To pass the first level with a better score, Chen Zhao didn't have that obsession. Chen Zhao didn't have that obsession, so he went straight to the 9th floor. Hell, the 9th level didn't have a human environment as the background. It was hell. The air was filled with the smell of sulfur. Chaotic spiritual qi filled the entire world. Chen Zhao was too familiar with hell. To him, this environment wasn't even as difficult as the previous levels. Of course, the environment of each level didn't affect the difficulty too much. What really affected each level were the monsters and demons guarding each level. Just then, a loud dragon roar came from the distance. Yes, it was a dragon roar. A black dot approached from the horizon. Black dragon. It was a black dragon. There was only one. But this black dragon was an enemy Chen Zhao had never seen before. It emitted a powerful dragon's might. Even Chen Zhao was affected by the dragon's might. Chen Zhao felt his magic being suppressed. This was the effect of the dragon's might. Even though Chen Zhao wasn't afraid mentally, his body was still instinctively affected. This black dragon's might was more than 100 times stronger than Gaia's. Of course, its body was even bigger than Gaia's. It was already shocking enough that it was 100 meters long. Human, the black dragon asked. Chen Zhao frowned and stared at the black dragon with full attention. You can talk. This was the first time a self-aware monster had ever existed in the Tower of Trials. Also, wasn't there a boss every 6 levels? He'd already encountered a boss on the 6th level. Why was there another one on the 9th? Would there be a boss every 3 levels? Hearing Chen Zhao's words, the black dragon was instantly enraged. Human, you're asking for death. Instantly, the black dragon spat out dragon breath. A terrifying heat wave attacked Chen Zhao. Danger! Chen Zhao tensed up. He suddenly flipped over and dodged. Please remember this book's domain name, 9 Heavens Godly Emperor Mobile Version. Chapter 1437. It wasn't like Chen Zhao had never seen someone stronger than him in hell. However, those that were stronger were basically the type that could crush him with one finger. They looked harmless, but once they started fighting, Chen Zhao wouldn't even know how to write the word death. But the black dragon before him was different. Chen Zhao didn't know why. He just wanted to kill the black dragon, and the black dragon did the same. It wanted to kill the human before him. It wasn't because this was the level of the Tower of Trials, or because the black dragon was the boss here. It just wanted to kill the human. Compatible enemies. The black dragon said an inexplicable technical term. What do you mean? I mean you're going to die. The black dragon suddenly swung its huge tail. Boom! Chen Zhao flew out in response. Before Chen Zhao could stand up, the black dragon's breath came again. Chen Zhao rolled to the side and dodged it. At the same time, he quickly took out his black trident and waved it. A water ball condensed with the trident and shot toward the black dragon. The black dragon's head was hit by the water ball. Its head tilted slightly, but it wasn't injured at all. The black dragon turned its head and looked at Chen Zhao again. Chen Zhao didn't dare to be careless at all. Avatar. Change, change, change. Spell returned to 1. Chen Zhao stretched his arms and legs. After spell returned to 1, the dragon's pressure on Chen Zhao lessened, but not by much. Originally, it had suppressed at least 20% of Chen Zhao's magic power. Now, it was around 15%. Chen Zhao moved again. This time he was several times faster than before. His strength was also several times greater. The black dragon's head took a solid hit from Chen Zhao's attack. The black trident hit the black dragon's head heavily. With a boom, the black dragon's huge head smashed into the ground. But in that instant, a terrifying pressure burst forth from the black dragon's horns. Chen Zhao's body froze. The black dragon's head went up and Chen Zhao was sent flying. Neither of them had a good ending this round. The black dragon shook its head. That hit wasn't light. Chen Zhao also felt sore all over, but he was more concerned about the black dragon's counterattack. At that moment, Chen Zhao felt like he was hit by West's slow field, but it was different. The range of West's slow domain was limited, but against people with much higher magic power than West, the slow field was ineffective. But in that moment, Chen Zhao suddenly felt that he couldn't move. It was only for a short moment, but it posed a great threat to Chen Zhao. If the black dragon kept using this move, then what was the point of fighting? He could just lie down. Chen Zhao stared at Black Dragon warily, and Black Dragon stared back at him warily. He was different from those brainless gatekeepers from before. The Black Dragon knew how to think. Chen Zhao secretly assessed Black Dragon's strength. In terms of strength, it was about the same as his 10,000 techniques returned to 1. But in terms of speed, it was slightly inferior. However, the Black Dragon's huge body gave it an advantage when it came to explosive power. His dragon breath and the spell that could instantly freeze him posed a great threat to him. But he didn't know if he had any other trump cards. Of course, his dragon might was also a great threat to Chen Zhao. This was a weakening halo and it was permanent. Finally, Black Dragon moved. A huge magic formation appeared above his head. It shone on Chen Zhao like a searchlight. Chen Zhao jumped in fright, but the next moment he realized that he was completely unharmed. What spell was this? Just as Chen Zhao was confused, Black Dragon spat out dragon breath again. Chen Zhao hurriedly dodged, but this time Black Dragon's breath seemed to have locked onto him. Wherever Chen Zhao hid, the dragon's breath would follow. Damn, this spell is a tracking spell. By now, Chen Zhao had been through hundreds of battles. He immediately understood the effect of this spell. Unable to dodge, dark lava surged up and blocked in front of Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao hadn't planned on using dark lava so early, but now Black Dragon had forced him to use dark lava to protect himself. Chen Zhao immediately melted into the lava. The lava stuck to the ground, so Black Dragon couldn't attack him immediately. This was Chen Zhao's ultimate life-saving technique. Black Dragon saw a large patch of dark lava spreading toward him. He didn't know what it was, but he instinctively didn't want to touch it. He immediately flapped his wings and flew into the air. But at this moment, the dark magma formed a straight line and chased after the Black Dragon that had risen into the sky. The moment it caught up to Black Dragon, dark lava turned into a sharp rope and pierced into Black Dragon's claws. Roar! Black Dragon roared in pain. At the same time, he felt something invading his body. A tyrannical power burst forth in an instant, and the dark magma that had already invaded the Black Dragon's dragon claws was directly repelled. Chen Zhao cursed. As expected, it was unrealistic to rely on dark lava's corrosion to deal with an enemy of this level. This guy was stronger and harder to deal with than the self-proclaimed god he'd met in the Amazon rainforest. That so-called god was only supported by the power of his believers. Also, he couldn't expel dark lava's corrosion from his body instantly like Black Dragon. Chun Zhao realized that in this world, those who called themselves gods were basically all amateurs. Whether it was the source of the fallen or the god in the Amazon rainforest, they were all fierce, but their greatest ability was to bewitch others. When it came to a real fight, they were like cowards. The truly powerful ones usually kept quiet. For example, Kong Mosa. Chun Zhao had never heard of him, but that was Chun Zhao's first time meeting someone at his level. It could be said that if he didn't have external help and the handsome guy as support, Chun Zhao might not have been able to get rid of Kong Mosa. The Black Dragon before him was the same. He didn't waste time talking and didn't care about life and death. Chun Zhao suddenly shot out of the dark lava. Holding the black trident with both hands, he attacked from below, wanting to pierce Black Dragon's heart. His heart soared. Alarmed, Black Dragon's pressure exploded again. Chun Zhao, who was in the air, felt awkward. He froze on the spot. But this time, Black Dragon didn't attack Chun Zhao. Instead, it swayed left and right in the air, keeping its body from landing. Chun Zhao couldn't help but frown. This spell was indeed very powerful. As long as it worked, it was almost undefeatable. However, Black Dragon seemed to have a hard time using this move. When he used it, he almost fell from the sky. The Black Dragon recovered, and Chun Zhao also broke free from the solidification. The two, one above and one below, stared at each other in the air. Both were thinking of countermeasures. Please remember the original domain name of this book. 9 Heavens, Godly Emperor Mobile Version. Chapter 1438. Black Dragon looked down at Chun Zhao from above. Even though he always spouted arrogant words, he wasn't an idiot. Of course, he could feel that the human before him wasn't the lowly and cowardly human he'd described. At least, Chun Zhao had the ability to injure, or even defeat him. Neither of them had an absolute chance of winning. In fact, both sides had many trump cards, but not all of them were effective against the opponent. For example, Chun Zhao's Imperial Thousand Swords. Its strength lay in group attacks against a thick-skinned Black Dragon. If one sword couldn't pierce through his defense, then the effect of 1,000 swords would be negligible. So, it was better not to use this move. It was useless anyway. Black Dragon was the same. He also had many spells. But after the short exchange earlier, he could already feel that Chun Zhao's defense and resistance were on the same level as his. Using those concealment spells was just a waste of his magic power. This time, it was Chun Zhao who attacked first. Chun Zhao's speed exploded. There was a pop in the air, like an arrow leaving a bow. Chun Zhao shot toward Black Dragon. Fast! He was as fast as lightning. Even the Black Dragon's scales were standing on end. Chun Zhao's speed was his biggest problem. No, he had to use that move again. In the blink of an eye, Black Dragon unleashed his bloodline pressure once more. This ability was actually a transformation of Dragon Might, but it was even stronger. Dragon Might could suppress the weak, both mentally and physically. Even for an expert like Chun Zhao, it still had a strong suppressive force. Bloodline pressure was even scarier than Dragon Might. It was a complete suppression. It could completely freeze the enemy's body. But bloodline pressure wasn't without weaknesses. First, it was too much for Black Dragon to use his bloodline power. If he used all his strength to release bloodline pressure, he would also enter a temporary weakness. It was like a human who used up too much energy and couldn't catch his breath. But the dragon race's recovery speed was insane. Even if he used up all his energy, he could still recover quickly. Chun Zhao smiled. This was what he'd been waiting for. The moment Black Dragon used bloodline pressure, Chun Zhao's black trident also flew out. Whoosh! The black trident pierced through the scales below Black Dragon's abdomen. Just as Chun Zhao had guessed, Black Dragon could stop him, but he couldn't stop the weapon's trajectory. Moreover, judging from the depth of the black trident, the Black Dragon was clearly in a weakened state when when he used this move. Roar! The black dragon roared. I'll take your life while you're down. Chen Zhao dashed to the dragon's abdomen and pulled out the black trident. Instantly, dragon blood splattered all over Chen Zhao's body. It hurts. Chen Zhao felt as if his body had been splashed by lava. Then, the black dragon's wings slapped down at Chen Zhao's head. Chen Zhao landed heavily on the ground. The black dragon also fell. Chen Zhao stood up shakily. Gritting his teeth, he endured the burning pain in his body. The black dragon stood up again. Despicable humans! Just then, Chen Zhao felt something surge in his body. It was a strange yet familiar feeling. Chen Zhao was sure that it existed, but he couldn't find what it was. The burning sensation gradually subsided. Then, Chen Zhao felt a gust of air around him. It was very small and weak, but it blocked the black dragon's draconic aura outside. It was very similar to draconic aura. No, it was draconic aura. Draconic aura? Chen Zhao's heart jumped. Had he obtained draconic aura? How was that possible? He didn't have dragon blood. How could he have draconic aura? Had he touched the black dragon's blood just now? That was even more impossible. In reality, one couldn't have dragon blood just by soaking in dragon blood. If that was the case, the dragon race would have been slaughtered by other races long ago. Only those with dragon blood, like Gaia, could absorb dragon blood to increase the purity of their bloodline. It was like how Gaia had absorbed the three-headed dragon's blood to increase her bloodline. However, the three-headed dragon was a mixed blood, so its bloodline wasn't pure. Gaia's improvement was also limited. Chen Zhao was sure that he didn't have dragon blood. If he wanted to obtain dragon characteristics, he had to go through the mouth of gluttony. Nowadays, Chen Zhao rarely used the mouth of gluttony to devour. This was because the power obtained after devouring might not be what he wanted. Moreover, after devouring, even the host wasn't sure what would happen after fusing with his own power element. It might even make him weaker. Chen Zhao didn't think that he had to change his power element. Even if it was a dragon, Chen Zhao didn't think that it was necessary. Thus, it was very strange that he had obtained draconic aura. Just then, an aura gathered above Chen Zhao's head. Sensing the aura, Chen Zhao looked up. Spiritual key! Ever since Chen Zhao had absorbed the spiritual key, he tried countless times, but he still couldn't figure out its use. Every key had a different way of absorbing energy and had different functions. When he'd absorbed the spiritual key with his primordial spirit, Chen Zhao had almost forgotten about it because he couldn't figure out how to use it. The golden key could allow him to evolve, but he still couldn't figure out how to use the spiritual key. Now, the spiritual key had actually been activated. Could it be that the spiritual key had given him draconic aura? But what was the use of the spiritual key? Even though the spiritual key had been activated, Chen Zhao was still confused. He didn't understand. He really didn't understand. Did the seniors who'd created the keys have something wrong with their brains? Why did they have to make things so complicated? Couldn't they have created something easier to understand? At the very least, they should have made an instruction manual or something. Had the spiritual key been activated by the black dragon's blood or by the dragon's blood? Chen Zhao instinctively felt that his guess wasn't right. It shouldn't be so simple. Although the dragon race was powerful, they were essentially not a special species. Suddenly, a thought flashed through Chen Zhao's mind. At first, the black dragon had said that he was a compatible enemy. Could it be because of that? Compatible enemy. Chen Zhao didn't understand, but he felt that it might be because he was the dragon's compatible enemy. Chen Zhao looked at the black dragon. The black dragon still didn't know that he'd obtained draconic aura. Although the range of draconic aura was very small, it blocked the black dragon's draconic aura. This caused the dragon's power, which had been weakened by the draconic aura, to recover to its peak. Chen Zhao gripped the black trident tightly, and stared at the black dragon. Chapter 1439. The black dragon suddenly felt that the human in front of it had become stronger. Had he never used his full strength before? The black dragon's gaze sharpened. It suddenly spread its wings and made a strange pose. Qin Zhao was confused. The black dragon's pose was like the dragon in some Western pictures. Its hind legs were on the ground, its wings spread, and its head was facing Qin Zhao. Was the black dragon planning to make a performance art with such a strange pose? Wait, if it wasn't performance art, then it must be using some magic. The black dragon must have sensed something, so it decided to use its trump card. As expected, a magic array with a diameter of 100 meters appeared behind the black dragon. It moved forward and passed through the black dragon's body. The black dragon's scales seemed to have been washed and polished. They were black and shiny. With a roar, flames burst out of the black dragon's body and spread in all directions. Destroy! The black dragon pounced at Qin Zhao. Just then, another ring of flames burst out of its body. Another ring of flames. Qin Zhao hurriedly retreated. The black dragon seemed to be able to release these flames endlessly. The closer he got to the black dragon, the hotter the flames became. He couldn't even get close. How could he fight? Qin Zhao had thought that he could use his dragon's might to counter the black dragon's might and not be suppressed. He didn't expect the black dragon's trump card to make Qin Zhao unable to fight back. However, Qin Zhao was furious now. After using its trump card, the black dragon chased after Qin Zhao arrogantly. Qin Zhao smashed the end of the black trident heavily on the ground. Suddenly, Qin Zhao felt water under his feet, an underground river. Qin Zhao smashed the ground with the black trident again. Through the echoes, he seemed to be able to identify the water buried underground. The underground water wasn't deep either. It was only a dozen meters under his feet. Just then, the black dragon pounced at him again. This time, Qin Zhao didn't run. Seeing the black dragon pounce at him, Qin Zhao raised the black trident. Boom! Instantly, the ground cracked and pillars of water shot into the sky. The underground water that soared into the sky directly drenched the defenseless black dragon's heart. Before he could react, Qin Zhao had already charged forward. In this environment where the moisture in the air increased, not only did Qin Zhao's mana recovery speed increase, but his attack power also increased. On the other hand, the power of Black Dragon's Ring of Destruction was greatly reduced. Just like in a tropical rainforest, in a humid environment, a match that was lit would be extinguished in a short period of time. Qin Zhao flew onto the Black Dragon's back, not caring if the Black Dragon was happy or not. The black trident pierced through the Black Dragon's neck. Roar! The Black Dragon rolled on the ground, trying to push Qin Zhao off its back. But Qin Zhao held onto the black trident tightly. Seeing that this move was ineffective, the Black Dragon tried another one. Just as Qin Zhao was about to behead Black Dragon, he suddenly lost his footing. The black trident missed too. The Black Dragon disappeared? Missing? Where is the Black Dragon? Where did the Black Dragon go? Just a moment ago, he was holding the black trident against the back of the Black Dragon's neck. How did he disappear in the blink of an eye? Are you kidding me? Dragon blood was still dripping from the black trident. It wasn't invisibility. If it was, the black trident wouldn't have fallen off. Just then, Qin Zhao saw a humanoid figure flying into the distance. What? Is that a black dragon? Qin Zhao was furious. Are you kidding me? A gatekeeper boss can run away? Qin Zhao charged forward and shot the black trident at the figure. Ah! The black trident pierced through the black dragon and fell to the ground. Qin Zhao immediately rushed over, but when he arrived, he saw that the black trident had been thrown on the ground. There was also a blood-stained broken arm on the black trident. It was a broken arm in the shape of a human. Chun Zhao picked up the black trident and the broken arm at the same time. The black trident had pierced the black dragon's arm, but he could have just taken it off. Why did he leave his own arm behind? Was it a greeting gift? Stop joking. That was a black dragon. Chun Zhao suddenly thought of a possibility. After the black dragon turned into a human, his physical strength wasn't as strong as when he was in dragon form. That was why he couldn't lift the black trident and could only cut off his arm to survive. Chun Zhao couldn't think of any other possibilities, but the gatekeeper boss had escaped. What was going on? Why did it run away? If he wanted to pass, did he have to find and kill the black dragon? But the world was so big. How was he supposed to find it? Never mind. He'd ask the handsome guy later. Chun Zhao wiped the blood on his body. The blood didn't burn as much as before, but he didn't activate the undead key either. It seemed that activating the undead key only gave him some dragon's might. Apart from that, it didn't have any practical use, other than making him immune to the dragon's might. His dragon's might didn't increase his strength at all. Moreover, the range of dragon's might was very small. Gaia could make its dragon's might cover a diameter of 20 meters, but Chun Zhao could only cover a diameter of 1 meter. Thinking about it, Chun Zhao decided not to use dragon's might in case Gaia laughed at him. Chun Zhao looked at the broken arm in his hand. He was about to throw it away when he suddenly paused. He wondered if Gaia could extract dragon blood from it. Let's take it out and see. Chun Zhao glanced around. He was disappointed that the black dragon had escaped. The next time they met, he definitely wouldn't let it go. But the next time they met, it would probably be an even more intense battle. After all, Chun Zhao knew the black dragon's characteristics. The black dragon also knew Chun Zhao's characteristics. It probably wouldn't be as easy as today. Fortunately, he'd broken off one of the black dragon's claws. The dragon would definitely be weakened. Just then, Chun Zhao received a notification from the Tower of Trials. Black dragon escaped. Leave the Tower of Trials or continue searching. Leave the Tower of Trials. In the blink of an eye, Chun Zhao exited the Tower of Trials. When everyone saw Chun Zhao come out, they immediately surrounded him. President, did you pass the 8th level? West asked. Chun Zhao nodded. Yes. Guild leader, whose arm is that? The big boss of the 9th level. Can the limbs of the monsters inside be taken out? Not the ones before, but the one on the 9th level is special. Not only is it strong, but it can also escape. I fought with it for more than an hour, but it escaped, Chun Zhao said gloomily. Gaia, this is for you. Everyone was dumbfounded. It was understandable to give someone a gift. But what was the meaning of giving away a severed arm? Chapter 1440. Others might not understand, but Gaia understood as soon as she touched the arm. A pure blood dragon. As Gaia's power increased, she understood her bloodline very well. Unlike her, who could transform into a dragon, a pure-blood dragon had to be extremely powerful to transform into a human. Can you absorb the dragon blood in this arm? Chun Zhao asked. Yes. Gaia nodded. But I need time. Just then, Jalanash landed from the sky. President, look, I can fly too, Jalanash said proudly. Not many people in the association could fly, even those stronger than her. Gaia had to transform into a fire dragon to fly, while Helith and Norma couldn't. Only Chun Zhao could fly. Jalanash felt that she couldn't catch up to Chun Zhao or Gaia in terms of power, so she had to catch up in other ways. Only Chun Zhao could fly. Jalanash felt that it would be difficult for her to catch up to Chun Zhao or Gaia in terms of power, so she could only catch up in other aspects. Only Chun Zhao could fly. Jalanash felt that she couldn't catch up to Chun Zhao or Gaia in terms of power, so she had to catch up in other ways. Now that Jalanash had mastered it, she immediately came to show off to Chun Zhao. Of course, most people were envious of her showing off. Jalanash was one of the few who could master water, fire, wind, and earth magic at the same time. She could also master 4 branches of elemental magic. Actually, Jalanash wasn't weak. At least in Chen Zhao's eyes, Jalanash and Helith were on the same level. But the difference was that Helith specialized in necromancy, while Jalanash was too mixed. She could basically learn all kinds of magic, but she wasn't proficient in any. If she could specialize in one, she might not be much weaker than Helith. She might even be stronger. Of course, Qin Zhao had no obligation or right to ask Jalanash to specialize in a certain type of magic. Qin Zhao wasn't her teacher or parent. Plus, his elemental magic might not be as good as Jalanash's. In Chen Zhao's opinion, learning magic was first and foremost about interest, not about how awesome one was. On the way home, Chen Zhao called the handsome guy. "Handsome, are you busy?" "I've never experienced what you humans call busy. If possible, I'd like to experience it." Chen Zhao saw that the handsome guy was in the sky above a battlefield. There were countless demons fighting below, which was why Chen Zhao thought that the handsome guy was participating in a war. However, when he looked at the demons fighting, although their numbers were endless, he didn't see any powerful ones. Even Chen Zhao could kill his way in and out. If the handsome guy really joined the battle, he could probably destroy both sides with a finger. "What are you doing?" he asked curiously. "It's a war started by my 2 followers' respective races. Whoever wins will get the chance to advance, and the loser's race will be exterminated." Chen Zhao shivered. This was indeed the style of hell. "By the way, my daughter's birthday is on the 15th of this month. It's a pity that you can't come to my daughter's birthday party." "Your eldest daughter?" "Yes." Qin Zhao nodded. "Oh, do you know what a compatible enemy is?" "Oh, did you encounter a compatible enemy?" "Yes, but I don't know what it means." "I heard it from him. In human terms, it's a fated enemy. Every soul has its own fate. Every soul's fate will resonate with other souls. Friends, enemies, family. A series of relationships are all caused by the resonance between souls. But there's another kind of relationship which is a compatible enemy," the handsome guy said. "A compatible enemy is like a natural enemy. Once they meet, they'll reject each other, hate each other, and kill each other until one of them dies. Is this also a part of the rules?" Qin Zhao asked. "Rather than a part of the rules, it's more like a part of fate," the handsome guy said. "You humans have a game called jigsaw puzzles, right?" "What does this have to do with puzzles?" "Fate is like a jigsaw. A compatible enemy is a jigsaw that perfectly matches your fate. Since it's a jigsaw that perfectly matches my fate, it should be something like the closest relationship, right? How did it become an enemy?" "This is the magic of fate. Because it's a perfect match, they'll kill each other. Maybe it's called fate instinct. I don't know much about fate, but I've done research on compatibility. I've captured many compatible enemies for research. The most direct observation is that after killing a compatible enemy, the winner's talent increases. It's not an increase in power, but his future power or achievement will be higher." Chen Zhao sank into deep thought. Then the dead key shouldn't be called the dead key, but the destiny key. Compatible enemies would kill each other and steal each other's luck. The destiny key would steal the other's ability or something else. "Where did you encounter a compatible enemy? If it's in hell, I can help you." "In the Tower of Trials, level 9 of Black Dragon." "Oh, you've reached level 9 already?" "Yes." "Did you kill that Black Dragon?" "No, he escaped," Qin Zhao said. "You're too careless. Next time, you need to be more careful. Originally, there shouldn't be any danger to your life in the Tower of Trials, but since it's a compatible enemy, then it could really threaten your life. Furthermore, every level after the 9th level is different from the previous ones. The 1st to 8th levels of the Tower of Trials are just monsters created by consciousness, but from the 9th level onwards, there are real enemies." The handsome guy was a bit anxious. "Maybe you should bring the Tower of Trials back to hell. I'll help you deal with this." "No, since it's my enemy, I'll do it myself," Qin Zhao said. "Are you that proud?" the handsome guy teased. "No, I just feel that I should at least respect my fate and my enemy. You won the first fight, right? Yes. He's injured. Yes. Then you should go in while he's still recovering. He escaped, and the 9th level seems to be very big. I couldn't find him. Your enemies. Fate will let you meet. Even if you want to avoid each other, it's impossible. Fate will tie you together until one of you dies. He lost an arm. I don't think he'll be a threat to me. I said don't be careless. As long as your enemy isn't dead, you can't be careless. Your enemy can threaten you at any time. Chapter 1441. On the way home. Qin Zhao's words kept echoing in his head. Even if he had lost an arm, would he still be a threat to him? Qin Zhao had been a bit arrogant, thinking that the next time they met would be Black Dragon's death. Now, it seemed that he was too naive. The next time they fought, it wouldn't be so easy. He really did not have the means to completely restrain the Black Dragon, even if it had lost one of its claws. Suddenly, a figure passed before Qin Zhao's car. SSS. Qin Zhao quickly stepped on the brakes, but the person in front still fell to the ground. He didn't touch it. Could it be a scam? Qin Zhao got out of the car and went forward to check. Ms. Shara. Qin Zhao did not expect Shara to be the one trying to blackmail him. Of course. Xiala wasn't trying to cheat. She was just frightened. Qin Zhao pulled Shara up. Ms. Shara, are you okay? Charla's expression didn't look too good, but Qin Zhao wouldn't agree that it was because she was scared by his car. I'm fine. Do I need to take you to the hospital? At the same time, he checked on Charla. She didn't seem to have any physical injuries, but her mental state was rather poor. No, thank you. I'm fine. Xia La shook her head. Then, can I trouble you to send me home? No matter what. Shara had helped a lot when little Larissa was born. Qin Zhao was still very grateful to the people who stayed to help. It wasn't just she was family. He was very grateful for Shara, Dailymore, and Navat Singer's help. Miss Shara, if you encounter any trouble, you can tell me. Maybe I can help. No, I'm fine. Shara's smile was a little forced. This is my phone number. If you need anything, you can call me anytime. Okay, thank you. It seemed like Qin Zhao was plotting something against Xiala, but Xiala didn't think too much about it. After all, she knew how pretty Feilai was. She wouldn't have any bad thoughts about her. Xiala's house was not small. It was a detached villa in a high-class neighborhood. Miss Xiala, is this your home? Yes, Mr. Chen. Would you like to come in for some water? No, I have to hurry home. Qin Zhao felt like he'd been staying at home for the past year. To be precise, he had become an otaku ever since he had little Jerlin, and he became even more otaku after he had little Larissa. As soon as he was done with his work, he wanted to go home and hug his daughter. Shayla stood in front of her door and did not enter. Her hands were trembling and her eyes were unfocused. She had an instinctive fear and resistance towards this family. Suddenly, the phone rang, pulling Shara back to reality. Hey, are you Miss Shara? Yes, I am. Who are you? You called me this morning. Did you forget? Are you Mr. Punkat? Yes, when can we meet? The sooner the better, Shayla said impatiently. Okay, where shall we meet? If it's convenient for you, come to my house. Half an hour later, a car stopped in front of Shara's house. Shara stood at the door, watching the people alighting from the car. Are you Mr. Punkat? Yes, are you Miss Shara? Yes, let's get straight to the point. Shara nodded. Punkat nodded and followed Shara into the house. I bought this house a month ago, Shara said. Xiala said. But ever since I moved in, I feel that something is wrong. I often have hallucinations, and I can't sleep well at night. My mental state is getting worse and worse, and I even have hallucinations. Just today, I almost ran onto the road because of my hallucinations and was hit by a speeding car. Have you seen a psychiatrist? Punkat asked, frowning. As an experienced spiritualist, Punkat had handled many supernatural cases. Many of them were actually due to the client's mental problems. The psychiatrist said that I'm under too much pressure from work and suggested that I take a few days off. I accepted her suggestion, but in the few days I've been resting at home, my mental state has gotten worse and worse, especially in this house. I keep feeling a bit. As Shara spoke, she subconsciously looked around. I keep feeling like something is watching me. The more Shara spoke, the more frightened she became. Punkat nodded and stood up, but for the time being, he didn't find anything special about the house. Of course, this didn't mean that there was nothing wrong with the house. Can I walk around the house? Of course, no problem. I hope you can help me solve the problem. I'll try my best. Punkat nodded and got up to walk around the house. Xiala, on the other hand, was following Punkat. Did you investigate the background of this house before you bought it? The house agent sold me the house. I didn't see the seller. The seller left the house in the hands of the agent, Shara said. Punkat walked around every room in the house and didn't find anything wrong. Miss Shara, I didn't find anything unclean in this house. Punkat, I'm not lying. Please believe me. I'm not saying that you're lying. There are many reasons for supernatural incidents. It might not be the house itself, Punkat said. Wait a minute, let me get a tool. Punkat took out a palm-sized compass from his bag. The moment Punkat pointed the compass at Shara, the needle of the compass immediately jumped and became very unstable. Punkat raised his eyebrows. Shara had indeed encountered a supernatural incident, and from the reaction of the compass needle, the supernatural incident that Shara had encountered was of a high level. Miss Shara, have you encountered similar incidents in your past life? Punkat asked. Some people were spiritualists, so it was normal for them to encounter such incidents. Others had a spiritual physique, so it was easy for them to provoke such things. No. Shara shook her head. However, Punkat checked the house. There should be no problem with the house, and the compass was reacting to Shara, which meant that Shara had encountered a problem. Then did you get anything strange? Like ancient coins, paintings, mirrors, or something like that? After I moved, I bought a lot of things. I'm not sure if there's anything you're talking about, Shara said. Looks like I'll have to check it again. Punkat took the compass and walked around the house again. Suddenly, when the compass in Punkat's hand was aimed at Shara's dresser, the needle jumped again. Was there a problem with the dresser? Punkat turned to look at Shara. Where did you get this dresser? I bought it from the supermarket. It's brand new. Is there a problem? Chapter 1442. Bought from a supermarket? Then it shouldn't be a problem with the dresser. If it was an antique found in a second-hand store, it was very possible. Many of the supernatural incidents that Punkat received were because the employer found something strange in a second-hand store, and then the supernatural incidents happened. That was something placed on the dresser. It had to be said that any woman's dresser would have a lot of cosmetics. It wasn't easy to find something unusual among so many cosmetics. Finally, Punkat discovered that among the cosmetics there was a wooden comb that did not fit in with the rest of the cosmetics. When Punkat picked up the wooden comb, he immediately felt a strange aura. The needle of the compass in his hand was also jumping wildly. Sure enough, there's something wrong with this comb. Punkat looked at Shara. Where did you get this comb? I bought it from a handicraft shop, Shara said. What kind of handicraft shop? Punkat asked. It's on Downey Street, 558? Punkat continued. Huh. Mr. Punkat, do you know that shop? Punkat was even more puzzled. How did you find that shop? What do you mean, how? I just went shopping and saw that shop, so I went in to take a look. It's hard to imagine that such a special shop would exist in such a busy area. Is there something wrong with that shop? That shop belongs to a spiritualist. Only a spiritualist like me can find that place. But you don't have any magic on you, so it's impossible for you to find that shop. 558. Downey Street is very famous among spiritualists. But I found it. That's the strange part. Punkat looked at the wooden comb in his hand. How much is this comb? $300. Pancat looked at Shara. She's really rich. Even as a spiritualist, I can't spend $300 on a magic comb. However, 558 Downey Street shouldn't sell items that brought bad luck. Panket's heart skipped a beat, and he suddenly understood. It wasn't that the people in that shop deliberately sold items that brought bad luck. It was because the magic item itself had magic, which attracted unclean things. If the buyer was a spiritualist, of course, this wouldn't be a problem. After all, no evil spirit would take the initiative to find trouble with a spiritualist. But Xia La was just an ordinary person, which became the biggest problem. Pancat examined Shayla a few times and confirmed that she was indeed an ordinary person without any magic. That was strange. It was impossible for an ordinary person without magic power to see 558 Downey Street. After all, that shop had a long history, and no ordinary person had ever been able to find it. Of course, as long as he could enter the store, the people inside wouldn't reject him. This wooden comb was a magic tool, but it was not the cause of the supernatural incident. The wooden comb itself would not harm its owner. However, the thing that was attracted by the wooden comb obviously harbored ill intentions toward Xiala. Even if he destroyed the wooden comb, it would not solve the problem. If he wanted to solve the problem, he still needed to get rid of the thing that was harassing Xiala. Miss Xiala, if it's convenient, I might need to stay here tonight. Pancat looked at Xiala. Shara hesitated for a moment. After all, she was a man and a woman in the same room, and the other party was not an acquaintance, so it was inevitable that she would be in a difficult position. However, Shara really did not dare to stay at home alone. If there was someone with her, she would feel more at ease. Mr. Pancat, you can solve my problem, right? Don't worry. I'll protect you. Feilai, where are little Jerlin and Larissa? When Chan Zhao returned, he saw Feilai lying on the chair with a mask on her face. Chin, you're back just in time. Help me apply sunscreen, Feilai said. There's still too much sunlight by the sea. Chin, do you have any whitening products? Feilai asked. Actually, Feilai was not pale at all in the past. After all, she was a member of the coastal rescue team. How could she be pale? However, ever since she got pregnant, she rarely went out. The 10 months of pregnancy had whitened her skin a lot. Now, she did not want to tan anymore. I'll make some tonight, Qin Zhao said. Your 2 daughters are at the beach below, Feilai said. Although she was sunbathing on the chair, she could still see the entire beach. There were also many pets on the beach. Jerlin and Larissa would not be in danger. In the sea, the 5 tiger generals were the gangsters of this coastline. Apart from the 5 of them, there were no other sharks wandering around. The only things that could threaten the 2 children on this beach were poisonous creatures like sea snakes and conchs. However, they always had antivenoms at home. Also, Walter, Black Ma, and White Ma often patrolled the beach. Their sense of smell could distinguish conchs. However, they did not appear often in Los Angeles. Injuries only happened once every decade. Chen Zhao could not stop his 2 daughters from playing on the beach because of this. As for sea snakes, they were easier to find, so they were not much of a threat. Little Larissa could already move on the beach with her limbs. At the moment, she was sitting on the beach. Beside her was a small bucket filled with seashells. Little Jerlin was carrying a small giant clamshell as she ran towards little Larissa with a face full of joy. Little Larissa, look, isn't it big? Yeah. Little Larissa laughed happily and clapped her hands with all her might. Only in the evening did little Jerlin and Larissa reluctantly be carried back to the villa by Black Ma and White Ma. Dad, Mom, we haven't had dinner yet. Why can't you let us play for a while? Little Jerlin crossed her arms in front of her chest, looking unhappy. However, her arms were not long enough. Because she was hung in the air by Black Ma, she looked funny. There's chicken soup tonight. If you don't come back soon, Princess will drink it all. The so-called chicken soup was stewed with undying birds. There was no such thing as confinement overseas, but Chen Zhao still wanted to help Fei Lai recover. However, Fei Lai could only drink 2 bowls of chicken soup at most. The rest would be taken by the 2 kids and their pets. Little Jerlin aside, little Larissa also knew how to drink chicken soup, and she liked it very much. Chen Zhao was now considering if he should go underground again. He wanted to see if he could hunt more undying birds. After all, the last one was almost finished. Chapter 1443. Chen Zhao decided to organize an underground expedition. He would find the participants from the association. It would be a test. He would also see if he could catch another immortal bird. Of course, Chen Zhao didn't have high hopes for this. After all, even if he could find one, it would be very deep underground. Other than Gaia, no one else could withstand that kind of temperature. Also, Gaia was immune to fire, but that didn't mean she could withstand endless heat. In fact, Gaia's heat resistance wasn't even as high as Chen Zhao's. Hey, West, tell the people in the association that we'll be training on temperature resistance. I plan to organize a group activity, an underground exploration. Those who don't have any resistance to temperature don't need to participate. At the same time, get Padalu and Jalig to study heat-resistant suits. Ever since the gale, Los Angeles had been too quiet. Even some of the commissions were halved compared to usual. The association was very free, so Chen Zhao wanted to use this opportunity to give them something to do. Of course, giving them something to do wasn't asking them to die. Chen Zhao couldn't let a bunch of weaklings go deep underground. However, West didn't know if he misunderstood Chen Zhao's meaning. He called the underground expedition an underground treasure hunt. Then everyone's enthusiasm soared, including Klaus and the lightning team. They all started training for heat resistance. All of them belonged to the physical strengthening category. Therefore, their heat resistance was also very high. Plus, they weren't going to crawl into a hole half-naked. When the time came, he would definitely have to wear protective clothing and cast protective spells. Of course, Chen Zhao didn't know that his sudden idea had caused the entire association to boil. "President, you're targeting me this time, right?" Helis called Chen Zhao, her voice filled with dissatisfaction. "What? How am I targeting you? You know that I can't stand heat, and you still want to go underground to search for treasure?" Helis wanted to go. No matter how aloof and unapproachable she usually was, she was still a young girl. Actually, on normal days, if there were any activities in the association, or if anyone needed help, Hallie would help them. She was a warm-hearted girl, but even Chen Zhao couldn't help but feel that Helis was a bit antisocial. "Wait, treasure hunt? What treasure hunt? You don't have to hide it. Mr. West told me everything." "What did West say? When did I say I was going on a treasure hunt?" Chen Zhao was speechless. What would happen then? If they said there were no treasures now, it would be too much of a blow to their enthusiasm. "Forget it, I'll just hide it for now." At that time, he would just say that they were not strong enough to enter the depths. That would be great. Ah! Punkat heard a scream coming from Shayla's room. Punkat immediately jumped up and rushed into Shayla's bedroom. "Miss Shara, what's wrong?" Punkat hastily hugged Xiala, who was scratching her messy hair, and patted her back to soothe her. At this moment, Punkat suddenly felt that Xia La's strength seemed to have increased a little. She hugged herself a little too tightly. "Miss Shala? Miss Shala?" Suddenly, Pang Ka realized the problem. Suddenly, Pankat's palm was covered in a layer of silver radiance as he chanted an incantation. A heavy slap landed on Shayla's back. Ah, this scream was definitely not something a woman could make. Pankat broke free from the passionate hug and saw a pitch-black spirit crawl out of Xia La's body. Evil spirit of burning fire. Pankat's expression changed slightly. Evil spirits of burning fire were evil spirits formed by people who had been burned to death by flames. There were many types of evil spirits. Among them, those killed by the 4 elements were the most difficult to deal with. Of course, Their numbers were also the rarest. The four elements of water, fire, earth, and wind, under most circumstances, would directly wipe out a person's soul when they killed them. Therefore, there were very few who could retain their soul, and even fewer who could become evil spirits. The evil spirit of burning fire was like charcoal. Its spirit body was covered in cracks, and there was a faint glow of fire under the cracks. The evil spirit of burning fire suddenly pounced at Pancat. Pancat hurriedly raised his fist and punched the evil spirit's face, causing a splash of ashes and ashes. The evil spirit of burning fire screamed again. It landed on the wall, and its body melted into it. However, a patch of black immediately appeared on the wall. As the evil spirit of burning fire moved inside the wall, the blackness on the wall kept spreading. A moment later, the entire wall turned black. However, the evil spirit of burning fire did not continue to attack Pancat. The blackness spread out of the bedroom and disappeared. Pancat, Mr. Pancat, just now, what was that? Did you see it? Pancat asked. On the wall, the blackness on the wall can move, Xiala said with a pale face. Pancat thought that Xiala had seen the evil spirit of burning fire, but it turned out that she had seen the path of the evil spirit of burning fire spreading inside the wall. Although it was his first time seeing the evil spirit of burning fire, he had read some records about it in magic books. The evil spirit of burning fire was an evil spirit that was formed after being burned to death. It would attach itself to a dead object and leave behind traces of ashes. If it attached itself to a living thing, the soul of the living thing would slowly be burned away and eventually dissipate like charcoal. However, the evil spirit of burning fire was an earthbound spirit. It would not move around and would only guard the place where it died. In other words, this evil spirit of burning fire had originally died here. However, he had checked the entire house today and did not find the existence of an evil spirit. So where did this evil spirit of burning fire come from? Mr. Pancat, what's the situation now? The situation is a bit tricky, Pancat said. How is it tricky? The evil spirit just now was very powerful and very troublesome. Can't you do anything? If it was an ordinary evil spirit, I could still do something, but this kind of evil spirit, I can only ask my teacher for help. Your teacher? You have a teacher? Of course, I'm a spiritualist. Of course I have a teacher, Pancat said matter-of-factly. But before that, let's leave this house first, Pancat said matter-of-factly. Pancat felt that something was wrong. Xiala had said that she had been disturbed by illusions before. However, the evil spirit of burning fire did not seem to have the ability to use illusions on the living. The evil spirit of burning fire was an evil spirit with astonishing destructive power, and it was cruel and crazy. They did not like to beat around the bush, and they were very straightforward when it came to killing and arson. However, the evil spirit of burning fire in the house really did not make people feel safe. They should leave this place first. Chapter 1444. Early the next morning, Pancat and Shara went straight to Pancat's teacher's house. Mr. Sean, are you there? Pancat stood in front of his teacher's house and shouted. Shara looked at the building in front of her. Does your teacher live in a place like this? Yes, is there a problem? Don't you think this house is too old? The life of a spiritualist isn't as good as you think, Pancat said. Pancat still had his main job. Exorcism was only his side job. However, most of the older generation of spiritualists treated exorcism as their main job. However, for spiritualists, unless they were famous spiritualists who had appeared on TV, there were very few who could earn a lot of money. Occasionally, they would meet a big client and be lucky enough to make tens of thousands of dollars. Most of the time, however, they only made a few $1,000s or less. Is your teacher very powerful? Shara asked. More powerful than me, Pancat said. And he solved the same problem as you in the past. Just then, the door opened. When Pancat saw Sean open the door, he was stunned. Pancat, Why are you looking for me so early in the morning? What are you waiting for? You. Mr. Sean? What's the matter? Sean looked at Pancat impatiently. Punkart stared blankly at Sean. Sean was less than 40 years old this year. Usually, Sean wore an old and outdated black suit. But today, Sean was dressed neatly and had even changed into a brand new suit. Moreover, the messy beard on his face had been shaved clean. This made Punkart think that he had mistaken Sean for someone else. The current Xiaowen was a far cry from his impression of his teacher. Teacher, are you going out? No, I'm just going to class, Sean said. Class? What class? At Nosilla Church. Is it a class from the church? No, it's a magic training course organized by the Supernatural Organization. It's a public course, Sean said. What supernatural organization? Why don't I know anything about it? Is it a newly formed supernatural organization? Idiot, they've been around longer than you, but they usually keep a low profile. Sean rolled his eyes. And everyone in the organization is very powerful. No matter how powerful I am, can I be more powerful than you, teacher? I'm nothing in their eyes. Xiao and rolled his eyes. All right, do you want to attend the class together? Can I go too? That's an open class. Xia La looked at the conversation between the teacher and student, who seemed to have forgotten about her. She immediately pulled Punkat. Is this your girlfriend? She's pretty. What's her name? No, teacher, this is my client. Her name is Shayla. We are here to seek your help. Asking for my help? A burning fire evil spirit has appeared in Miss Xia La's house. I can't solve it, so I can only ask for your help, teacher. I see. Sean nodded. How much is the reward? $20,000. I want half. Sure. Pancat nodded. In any case, Sean would be the main force, and he would be the assistant. He had no objections to this arrangement. Let's go to the class first. I don't want to miss this public class, Xiao En said. Teacher, do you come to this class every day? No, it's only one class a month, so I can't miss it. Then can I go? Shayla asked. Of course, Xiao En said. Let's go. Nosilla Church isn't far from here. Teacher, will we be chased out by the supernatural organization if we dress so casually? I don't have any requirements for clothes. Then why are you dressed so formally? I want to leave a good impression. If there's a chance in the future, I might be able to become a member. When the three of them arrived at Nosilla Church, they found that there were already more than 20 people there. Pancat recognized some of them. They were all spiritualists. A few more people came one after another, and there were about 30 people in the church listening to the lecture. After a while, the people from the supernatural organization finally arrived. Xia La saw that the person on the stage was actually a young girl. From her appearance, he couldn't tell if she was over 20 years old. That's the supernatural organization? Shayla whispered. She looks very young. Shayla wasn't the only one who had doubts. Many people in the church had the same question. Jalanash stood on the makeshift podium and held a microphone. Hello, everyone. I'm a member of the supernatural organization, Jalanash. At the same time, she raised her right hand with her back facing the crowd. Maybe some of you have doubts about my power. This golden ring should be enough to explain it. A few people in the church exclaimed in surprise, but more people did not know what was going on. Mr. Xiaoen, what's the meaning of the golden ring on the girl's hand? Shayla asked. Does it mean she's married? Pancat teased. Even he thought it was a joke. That's one of the supernatural organization's magic power levels, Xiao En said solemnly. Oh, then is the gold a symbol of a certain level? Pancat's tone was still frivolous. Yes, it's the symbol of the highest level. Then the organization's levels must not be strict. A little girl actually got the highest level. Previously, Magic Shell went to do the magic power level assessment. She got a blue ring. She's only ranked second. What? How is that possible? Magic Shell is such a powerful spiritualist. Does the supernatural organization's magic power level only have high, middle, and low levels? No, there are 5 levels, Xiao En said. Does their magic power level assessment have any authority? Back then, Magic Shell also questioned it. He even used his past achievements as proof and asked the supernatural organization to give him a higher level. Of course, the supernatural organization wasn't happy, so Magic Shell fought them and was thrown out. He was surrounded by the supernatural organization? No, Magic Shell said he was thrown out by a girl in black. Magic Shell has a lot of battle experience. How could he lose? Magic Shell said it himself. He said that the girl who stopped him seemed to be an extremely rare necromancer. That girl only used 10 seconds to defeat him. Please remember this book's domain name. Mobile version. Chapter 1445. In an instant, the entire church fell silent. Shara was surprised to find that she couldn't make a sound. It wasn't just her. Sean and Punkat beside her couldn't make a sound either. At this time, Jalanash, who was on the podium, spoke. All right, I hope everyone can be quiet. After all, I don't want to waste time here. Jalanash didn't want to give these spiritualists any lessons. It was a complete waste of time. She might as well go back and study a spell. One morning was enough for her to study a small spell. Jalanash then removed the silent spell. Although the silent spell wasn't an elemental spell, but a spiritual spell, Jalanash still studied it. It was mainly used to deal with spiritualists who were large in number and slightly weaker. For example, most of the spiritualists in front of her needed to use incantations to cast spells. Once they were hit by the silent spell, they wouldn't be able to cast spells. However, they were really weak. Most of them only had rank E magic power. There was only one person present who was rank D. Jalanash removed the silent spell. There was a small buzz from below. Some people couldn't help but discuss it. However, this didn't affect Jalanash's speech. Mr. Punkat, Mr. Sean, what happened just now? Why can't I make a sound? Shara couldn't help but ask in a low voice. Silent spell. Simply put, it's a spell that prevents you from making a sound. Punkat's understanding of the silent spell was limited to this. But this girl is really scary. There were more than 30 spiritualists here, but she actually muted us all. A level. 70 main character using an area of effect skill and hitting dozens of level. 10 newbies within a range wasn't really anything to be proud of. However, for these newbies who thought that there were only level 10 or level 20 characters in this world, suddenly encountering one? It was only natural for a main account of this level to be shocked. After all, most of the people they encountered were at the same level as them, or just slightly stronger. Jalanash appeared quite confident on the podium. She didn't just talk about magic, but also exorcism and exorcism. After all, she was talking to a bunch of newbies. Jalanash was qualified to be their teacher, whether it was in terms of strength or experience. These people weren't just low-leveled. They had never been to high-level maps, let alone encountered high-level monsters. Pankat and Sean were listening with great interest. To them, Jalanash's lecture was like a holy scripture. Every content was enlightening and enlightening, allowing them to see the light. Miss Jalanash, do the monsters you speak of really exist? I don't think a fused spirit is a monster. I believe at least a quarter of you have seen one before. Of course, the fused spirit you've seen shouldn't be too strong. I bet it has only devoured a dozen of its kind, Jalanash said. So you have, Miss Jalanash? I've seen stronger gathered spirits, but even I don't have the confidence to deal with those twisted monsters. Jalanash said, also, if you encounter something like this, you must destroy it, so I can't show you. But there's a lady with me today. She should be the strongest spirit. If you're interested, I can ask her to give you a lesson. Everyone below had disapproving looks on their faces. Spiritual body? They had indeed seen powerful spirit bodies before, and some of them had also seen or heard of aggregated spirits. In their eyes, The converged spirit was already the most powerful and terrifying spirit body. But now, Jalanash said that a spirit had come with her. Since they were able to walk with her, there were either spirit bodies that she summoned or spirit bodies that were content with their lot. How scary was a spirit like that? Then, Miss Jalanash, please open our eyes. Jalanash's lips curled up. She had been waiting for these people to say that. Miss Pamela, it's time for you to go. A chill spread into the church, and everyone couldn't help but shiver. It's so cold. It's a shiver from the soul. Sean's expression became serious. Is it a frost demon? Pancat asked in surprise. At this moment, a spirit body descended from the old and cracked ceiling. Only Shayla, who was an ordinary person, couldn't see it. Everyone else saw Pamela's arrival. What kind of spirit is that? I've never seen it before. Is it an evil spirit formed from a frozen person? Miss Jalanash, do you want us to fight this spirit? A spiritualist asked. We can go to the empty space outside. Then what if we accidentally hurt or kill this lady? After all, spirits are weak. This spiritualist was clearly very confident in his abilities. Of course, there was a hint of malice in his tone. He had been unwilling to be muted by a little girl like Jalanash, but he had to admit that Jalanash was strong. He didn't think he could beat her, but he felt that this spirit was easy to bully. At least that was what he thought. If he couldn't beat Jalanash herself, then he would get back at her contract spirit. He didn't know that Pamela wasn't Jalanash's contract spirit. It wouldn't even be an exaggeration for Jalanash to call Pamela teacher. After all, Jalanash had learned the muting spell from Pamela, and Pamela wasn't a spirit body, at least not now. She was a banshee, the only banshee in the world right now. Of course, after the second batch of 30 or so banshees finished their transformation, she wouldn't be alone anymore. Pamela floated to the empty space outside the church. The spiritualist stood before her. Miss Jalanash, is there anything I can pay attention to? If there's a need, I can retract the powerful spells to prevent serious injuries. Of course, the spiritualist wasn't that kind. He didn't plan on stopping. Even though he said that to Jalanash, he could also say that the spells he'd just used were normal spells. No, do whatever you want, Jalanash said coolly. Miss Pamela, please be careful too. Pamela had a faint smile. Of course, I understand. I'll be careful. Careful. They weren't here to kill, so they couldn't kill here. Even though they weren't very patient with these stupid and ignorant spiritualists, they still suppressed their impulses. Then I'll attack that Miss Pamela. Chapter 1446. This spiritualist was clearly very confident in his own abilities. Spirit ring. The spiritualist spun his finger, and a ring of light appeared above Pamela's head. The ring of light descended, trapping him with all his might. The spiritualist's lips curved. This spirit ring couldn't be avoided. Moreover, it would even cause the spirit body to burn. Struggle. The more you struggled, the tighter the ring would be. Bang! Pamela spread her arms and broke the spirit ring. Everyone's eyeballs were about to fall out of their sockets. Was this even possible? It was formed by magic. For spirits, it was like putting a laser on a human's body. But Pamela broke the spirit ring directly. Pamela's face was calm. It's my turn, right? The spiritualist on the other side instantly exploded. Danger! 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 It was an unprecedented sense of danger. Although most spiritualists weren't prophetic, there were quite a number of spiritualists who had the ability to predict danger. It was created when their magic awakened. Pamela pointed with her finger, and a wave of cold air exploded. Even though they weren't facing Pamela, the surrounding spiritualists still felt the bone-chilling coldness. The spiritualist facing Pamela had cast a defensive spell on himself, but he was instantly frozen into a block of ice. What? Someone died? Damn, the evil spirit from the supernatural organization killed someone. That's too much. Jalanash's face twitched. She walked to Pamela. Lady Pamela, did you kill him? No, Pamela said calmly. I just froze his soul. He's not dead. He's not dead? I can't feel his aura or magic at all. Is he really not dead? The other spiritualists were suspicious. After all, he had been frozen into a lump of ice. How could he still be alive? Who were they kidding? He'll be fine after a few hours in the sun, Pamela said. On the other hand, Xiaola had been watching the entire battle, but she only saw the spiritualists' one-man show. She couldn't see Pamela. However, she still saw the spiritualist frozen into an ice cube. What happened? Shara asked in a low voice. Punkat briefly recounted what had happened just now. That spirit is terrifying, Pancake gulped. It's even more terrifying than the evil spirit of scorching fire. They aren't even on the same level. Sean said, If that Lady Pamela really makes a move, I'm afraid none of us here will survive. That's scary. Is this spirit a contract, evil spirit of someone from the supernatural organization? Everyone's fear and curiosity towards the supernatural organization increased. Miss Jolinash, Lady Pamela, may I ask if you know anything about the evil spirit of fire? Sean asked. He had fought against the burning fire evil spirit a few years ago, but it was more or less luck that he was able to destroy the burning fire evil spirit. On one hand, they had made ample preparations. When the evil spirit of the burning flame was unconscious, they had 2 helpers, which was why they were able to successfully destroy the evil spirit of the burning flame. But this time, Pang Carter had invited him, so he didn't have much confidence. So he wanted to see if Jolene Nash and Pamela had something special to say. Evil spirit of scorching fire. Jolene didn't have much experience with spirits. She was an elemental witch, so she was better at high-level battles. Of course, this didn't mean that she didn't know how to deal with evil spirits. It was just that when she dealt with evil spirits, she would use her ultimate skills to kill them instantly. There are a few evil spirits of scorching fire in the evil spirit organization, Pamela mumbled. What? Sean didn't hear clearly. Nothing. It's not hard to deal with the evil spirit of scorching fire with water spells. What if they don't know water spells? Sean asked. China's Taoist charms are very effective against evil spirits of scorching fire. There are many Taoist charms for sale at 558 Downey Street. I recommend the charms from the Maoshan sect or Dragon Tiger Mountain sect. As for charms from other unknown sects, the quality and effects might not be as good as expected, Pamela said. Among them, the Clear Water Charm and Demon Suppression Charm are the best choices. But these 2 charms are expensive and require a lot of magic power to activate. Based on your magic power level, you can only activate 2 charms at most. If you miss, you'll be in danger. Of course, there are also the Breaking Thunder Charm and the 9 Pure Heart Charm. These charms are also quite effective. The price is moderate, and they don't use a lot of magic power. They're the most cost-effective. There are also some. Pamela's explanation was very detailed, but the method she talked about was using external forces to get rid of the evil spirit of scorching fire instead of using one's own power. If this spiritualist really had the power to get rid of the evil spirit, he wouldn't have asked her this question. Also, Pamela couldn't teach him magic here. Pamela didn't know what magic he was or how much combat experience he had. So Pamela could only tell him the most appropriate method. While Pamela was explaining, many spiritualists were taking notes. Lady Pamela, I have a mission recently and encountered a corpse dog. I'm major in elemental thunder magic, but I can only use the most basic spells. Is there a safer way to get rid of this corpse dog? The biggest threat of the corpse dog is its mutated body. It's close to the strength of a lion or tiger, and it has a disease-causing corpse poison. At the same time, it's immune to voodoo and curses, as well as high resistance to spirits and fire. So it's very difficult for you to fight a corpse dog with your current power. But it's not absolute. The nature of a corpse dog is actually similar to that of a dog. After all, they were dogs when they were alive, so you can try to get rid of them with some traps. Also, remember to bring some glutinous rice. If you're scratched or bitten by a corpse dog, you can use the glutinous rice to detoxify and suppress the effects of the corpse poison. If the poison is too deep, you'll need the church's holy water or holy light magic to purify you. Just then, the others started to check their temperatures. Some asked Pamela, and some asked Jalanash. There were all kinds of questions, and the two of them tried their best to answer them. That's amazing, Sean said in shock. They seem to have encountered many scary things that we've heard about before, and they all know how to deal with them. The supernatural organization in Los Angeles was the organization. So most of the supernatural incidents in Los Angeles and the surrounding areas were handled by them. Many incidents were reported to them directly by the government, and most of the incidents reported to them by the government were dangerous, supernatural incidents. It was completely different from the commissions ordinary people received. Naturally, the supernatural organization had a lot more experience. Missions that seemed difficult to ordinary people were just normal to the supernatural organization. Chapter 1447. The morning classes were over. Pancat and Xiao En were reluctant to leave. They'd learned a lot of things, including some monsters they'd only heard of in legends. But Jalanash and Pamela could explain how to deal with them. Of course, some monsters couldn't be defeated just because they knew how to deal with them. Jalanash and Pamela could only provide them with a possibility and a plan. They weren't guaranteed to win, and because they were in different positions, they saw things differently. With their strength, no matter how meticulous they were, it was something that only they could do. Others might not be able to do it. Pancat and Xiao En left with Shara. Then Pancat began to explain the situation to Xiao En. Are you sure that house hasn't been on fire before? Xiao En asked, confused. That house should have been built a long time ago, Shara said. There shouldn't have been a fire in the last 20 years. When I bought it, the contract didn't say that the house had been on fire before. America's real estate sales were relatively strict. At least, the laws in this area were more complete. When a house was sold, the contract would state the construction of the house, the use of the land, when the house was built, how many times it had been repaired, and whether it had been attacked by fire or water. Once the buyer found out about something wrong with the house, the buyer could ask the agent or the seller for a refund unconditionally. Shara's new house had been bought from an agent, and as the agent, it was impossible for them not to investigate. Shara also trusted the agent when she bought the house. After all, it was a relatively well-known company. That was why she didn't suspect anything. After all, the agent was the most concerned about the use of the house. If something went wrong, they'd be the ones with the biggest headache. So it was impossible for Shara not to know that someone had been burned in the house. Also, the evil spirit of burning fire can't control people, nor can it use illusions on the living. Is there a second evil spirit in that house? Pancat wondered. He'd had his suspicions before, and now Xiao En had the same suspicions. Is it possible that the evil spirit of burning fire was controlled by someone? Xiao En raised a new point of view. The evil spirit of burning fire had either died in the house, but from what Shara said, it didn't seem like the house had burned anyone. Then it was possible that someone had controlled the evil spirit of burning fire and deliberately placed it in the house. If that was the case, then it would be even more troublesome. After all, if a spiritualist had really placed the scorching fire evil spirit in that house, then not only would they have to deal with the scorching fire evil spirit, but they would also have to deal with an unknown spiritualist. There was one more thing that puzzled Pancat and Sean. Why would Shara enter 558 Downey Street? It was impossible for ordinary people to find that place, unless a spiritualist brought her in. But Shara had said that she had found 558 Downey Street by herself while shopping. This ruled out the possibility of someone bringing her in. Furthermore, both of them confirmed that Shara was indeed an ordinary person and not a witch. In this world, there was no such thing as coincidence, finding a certain mysterious area, or being blessed by the heavens with outstanding talent. 0 was 0 and 1 was 1. There was no ambiguity in it. While it's still early, let's go to 558 Downey Street. What they wanted to confirm now was whether Shala could really find 558 Downey Street. The three of them drove to Downey Street and let Shara walk in front. Ms. Shara, please lead the way. Find 558 Downey Street. When Shara heard the two say that ordinary people couldn't find 558 Downey Street, she didn't really believe it, because she had found it and even bought something. She had a good memory, and she could recognize the numbers of all the shops. She didn't believe that she would go the wrong way this time, but that was the truth. When she searched for 558 Downey Street again, she realized that she couldn't find the number no matter how hard she tried. Damn, what went wrong? Shara walked back and forth on Downey Street 3 or 4 times, but still couldn't find it. She couldn't find it? How was that possible? Did the shop move away? Shara asked, confused. No, it's still there. Pancat shook his head. Just then, Shara suddenly saw a few familiar figures. Wasn't that Chun Zhao, Feilai, and their 2 children? It seemed that they were also shopping here. Hi, Mr. Chen, Ms. Feilai. Chun Zhao looked up and saw Shara. Then he looked at Pancat and Xiao and behind her. There seemed to be magic waves on them, but they weren't strong. Ms. Shara, are you in trouble? They're my friends. Real friends. Chun Zhao hugged Jerlin, but he still looked at Pancat and Xiao and warily. He thought that the two had threatened Shara and wanted to do something to her. Shara was forced to tell the truth. Real friends. Shara understood what Qin Zhao was trying to say. Shara, why don't you come to my house? Qin Zhao and I moved. Thank you for saving me from more pain last time. I haven't had the chance to thank you properly, Feilai said. I still have something to do. Shara turned her head hesitantly and looked at Pancat and Xiao En. Ms. Feilai, why don't you go stay at a friend's house for a few days? Pancat asked. We'll take care of the rest. Call me. Is that okay? No problem. Don't worry. Mr. Chen, Ms. Feilai, is it convenient for me to stay there for a few days? No problem. You can stay as long as you want. Aunt Shara, Jerlin's birthday is coming up. Can you wait for Jerlin's birthday party before you leave? Jerlin looked at Shara with watery eyes. Jerlin, when's your birthday? Shara liked Jerlin the moment she saw her. She wanted to give birth to such a cute princess in the future. Chun Zhao was relieved that she wasn't being threatened. It seemed that he'd thought too much. If she was being threatened, Shara wouldn't be walking on the street like this. Shara followed Chun Zhao's family to Mingyue Villa. Shara already knew that Chun Zhao was rich. After all, Chun Zhao had paid her $200,000 for less than 48 hours of work. However, when she saw Mingyue Villa and Mingyue Beach, as well as the yacht parked at the pier, she was still shocked. She was still shocked. Mingyue Villa was too beautiful, and its scale was beyond her imagination. Please remember the original domain name of this book, mobile version. Chapter 1448. She thought that Mirror Lake Villa was good enough. When Mirror Lake Villa had been destroyed by the witch's tropical storm, Shara had felt it was a pity. However, her imagination had been limited by poverty. Living here was really a top-notch enjoyment. It wasn't physical. For a normal person, 3 meals a day and a bed were enough to satisfy a person's physical needs. What she truly enjoyed was mental. Walking to the courtyard, she could see the surging waves. She only needed to take the elevator to the beach. Sunlight, sand, and waves all belonged to her family. Shara held a goblet of red wine and leaned against the railing with Feilai. They enjoyed the wine and chatted. Shara had never tasted such delicious red wine before. She hadn't heard of the nameless wine, but she knew that it was definitely expensive. In the shallow waters, Shara saw Chun Zhao with little Jerlin and Larissa. Jerlin could swim, but she wasn't completely used to the waves. Seawater was more buoyant than fresh water, but because of the changing tides, the waves were uneven, so little Jerlin would still choke. Of course, she still swam with all her might. Chun Zhao stood beside Jerlin and didn't interfere with her practice. Larissa's belly was being dragged by Chun Zhao. Her limbs were paddling randomly in the water. However, she clearly hadn't mastered swimming yet. In this aspect, little Larissa couldn't compare to little Jerlin. Back then, Chun Zhao hadn't taught little Jerlin at all. It was as if she was born to swim. Larissa, on the other hand, couldn't. As soon as Chun Zhao let go, she would sink. Of course, the environment in Mirror Lake was different from the waves. Larissa was like her sister. She also liked to play in the water. Dad, look, look. Jerlin suddenly cried out in excitement and pointed not far away. Chun Zhao looked in Jerlin's direction and saw a few bottlenose dolphins leaping into the waves ahead. There were 6 of them. 2 of them were bigger, around 2 meters long. 4 of them were young dolphins. This should be a small dolphin family. The 2 bigger dolphins were probably the children of the other 4. Most dolphins were very curious and friendly to humans. Killer whales belonged to the dolphin category, not the whales that everyone thought. Moreover, they had a very high IQ. People's impression of dolphins was that they were naughty and occasionally helped shipwreck victims. The dolphins had clearly noticed Chun Zhao and his 2 kids too. They immediately surrounded them. The 2 leading dolphins, the father and mother, let out childlike cries and swam toward Chun Zhao, little Jerlin, and little Larissa without any explanation. When it reached the 3, it slowed down. Chun Zhao didn't sense any malice, but he was still careful. However, Chun Zhao's worries were unnecessary. He could hear their voices saying, "Come on my back, come on my back." They kept repeating the same words. Little Jerlin held their dorsal fins. Just then, Chun Zhao grabbed a dolphin's dorsal fin and it started swimming towards the shore. Little Jerlin was also pulled to the shore by the dolphin. The dolphin father and mother had obviously misunderstood. They thought that Chun Zhao, little Jerlin, and little Larissa were refugees. Chun Zhao was touched. Inexplicably, he was moved by her words. The 4 little dolphins behind also followed their father and mother. Just then, Chun Zhao felt the 5 tiger generals approach. Chun Zhao's eyes hardened. He immediately sent a warning to the 5 tiger generals with Little World. "Go away. Don't hurt this family." The 5 tiger generals didn't even have time to show themselves before they were chased away. Actually, they didn't plan to hurt the dolphin family. Their intelligence wasn't low now. They could tell good from bad. They just wanted to come and play with Chun Zhao. Fine. Chun Zhao had misunderstood them, but the dolphin family would inevitably be frightened. Chun Zhao didn't want to chase this kind family away. The father and mother sent Chun Zhao and little Jerlin to the beach directly. Then they moved their bodies with difficulty, trying to return to the sea. Just then, a wave came and pushed them a few more meters onto the beach. They seemed to be struggling. Chun Zhao immediately went up and pulled the father's tail, trying to pull it back into the sea. Little Jerlin also came up and helped pull the mother back into the sea. Chun Zhao smiled bitterly. He was carrying little Larissa, so he couldn't pull both of them at the same time. Little Jerlin clearly couldn't move. Chun Zhao secretly cast a spell and used countless threads to wrap around the mother's tail. Then the mother and daughter pulled the father and mother back into the sea together. Just then, Phalai and Shara each came down with a bucket. Chun Zhao was stunned. Then he realized that their buckets were filled with fish. "Chen, tell them to come back," Phalai called. Chun Zhao didn't leave when he saw the parents return to the sea. He walked to the shallow area and clapped his hands. "Thank you for saving us. This is our gift." Shara's expression was strange. Could the dolphins understand? However, she did not expect that the dolphins would really come over. They weren't afraid at all and swam to Chun Zhao's side. Phalai and Shara came over too. Then they started taking the fish out of the buckets. The water was just right, not even up to Chun Zhao's waist. The dolphins wouldn't be stranded at this level. Little Jerlin also came over to help split the fish. He Daddy, kiss me, kiss me, kiss me, what's a kiss? Did they name the dolphin so soon? Little Jerlin was playing with a little dolphin about 80 centimeters long. The little dolphin seemed to like Jerlin's hug too. Shara looked at the family with indescribable envy. After all, not everyone had such an experience. Suddenly, Shara saw a huge fin appear in the sea. Shara's expression changed drastically. Shark, shark, run, shark. The dolphin family was frightened too. They also noticed the shark's fin and hurriedly ran toward the beach. At the same time, they cried out as if to warn Chen Zhao's family. Old Guan was here. He was here to fight for Chen Zhao's favor. Shara realized that Chen Zhao's family didn't plan to run at all. Then she saw a great white shark rush into the shallow water. Its huge body made people's scalps go numb. It was too big, frighteningly big. Its bloody mouth was less than 2 meters away from them. Chapter 1449. In Shara's eyes, the great white shark could swallow Jerlin whole with just a twist. But the shark didn't. Half of its body was stuck in the water, and its tail kept swinging. Chen Zhao also looked at Guan Laoda in annoyance. You came here to fight for attention and got yourself stranded. Are you stupid? Chen Zhao threw a few fish into Guan Laoda's mouth. They weren't even enough to fill his teeth. Then he walked behind Guan Laoda and dragged him back to the deep water. The dolphin family was still a little frightened. Shara was dumbfounded. That great white shark was their family's pet? You're not afraid of sharks? That's a great white shark, Shara asked. Why should we be afraid of sharks? Jerlin asked, confused. In her eyes, any family pet could be trusted. Why should they be afraid? I'm a beast tamer, Chen Zhao said casually. Shara really believed him. After all, great white sharks were infamous. If such an existence could be tamed, what else couldn't be tamed? Soon, the dolphin family swam over and started playing with Chen Zhao's family again. Soon, Jerlin could already ride on the dolphins and let them play with her. Under the night sky, Punkat and Sean entered Shara's house. The lights were off in the entire house. Both of them had rich experience in exorcism. Evil spirits usually like to wander in the dark. If there was light in the house, they would actively hide or destroy the light source. Suddenly, the two heard movement. It came from Shara's bedroom. Coming. The two stood up at the same time. Cautiously arriving outside Shara's bedroom, Punkat gently pushed open the door. There was a woman sitting at the dresser. Miss Shara. Seeing the figure, Punkat subconsciously thought it was Shara. No, it's not Miss Shara. Sean shook his head. He was more rational now. Punkat also came back to his senses. Right, Shara had gone to a friend's house. Why would she be here? Isn't that an evil spirit of fire? As expected, there's more than one evil spirit of fire pestering Miss Shara, Punkat whispered. Pankat said in a low voice, then the one who created the illusion should be this evil spirit. The figure was slowly combing his long hair with a comb. Pankat held a handful of magic phosphor in his hand, while Sean took out a talisman. The charm was bought at 558 Downey Street today. This charm could be activated with just a little bit of magic power, and it had decent lethality. Sean gestured to Punkat and began the countdown. 3, 2, 1. The two of them rushed in at the same time. Carter shouted loudly and scattered the magic phosphor in his hand. Crash! The magic phosphorescence burst into flames, but when the flames disappeared, so did the ghostly figure. Where's the evil spirit? Pankat asked curiously. He didn't believe that a handful of magic phosphor could destroy that evil spirit. At this time, Pankat noticed that a comb had appeared in Shao Un's hand. He was slowly combing his hair. Carter's hair stood on end as he hurriedly retreated. At the same time, he quickly took out a handful of magic phosphor and sprayed it at Sean. Crash! Ah! Sean screamed in pain. Although magical phosphor was mainly used to attack spirits and cast some spells, it still had a certain lethality to humans. Teacher Sean. Pancat didn't see any spirit fly out of Sean's body, and the scream he heard just now was Sean's. Just as Pancat stepped forward to help Sean up, someone suddenly patted his shoulder. Pancat, what are you doing? Sean's voice came from behind. Pancat froze for a moment and turned around to find Sean standing behind him. He looked down and saw that Sean, who should have been accidentally injured by his magic phosphor, had disappeared. And Sean, who was standing behind him, was unharmed. Pancat immediately retreated and looked at Sean in horror. You! Pancat, what are you doing? Sean asked in confusion. Are you really Sean? Of course I am. What the hell are you doing? Pancat's eyes flickered. What was going on? Did he fall for an illusion? Or was Sean possessed by an evil spirit? It should be known that spiritualists would almost never be possessed. If a spiritualist was possessed by an evil spirit, the evil spirit would be extremely powerful. Furthermore, a spiritualist who was possessed by an evil spirit would become extremely terrifying. Suddenly, Sean saw that there was a comb in Pancat's hair. During the day, Pancat had told him that this comb had traces of magic on it. Sean saw that Pancat's expression was a little strange. Evil spirit, retreat. Sean immediately cast out a talisman. Pancat's expression was very strange. The talisman landed on Pancat's forehead. Pancat's body went limp and he fell to the ground. Sean heaved a sigh of relief. He walked over to Pancat and flipped him over. Suddenly, Sean saw a figure on the ground. He turned around and saw Pancat. Pancat was holding a baseball bat high in his hands. You! Sean looked back again and saw Pancat, who should have been killed by the talisman. Pancat's figure was nowhere to be seen. The talisman was stuck on the wall. Oh no! Duong! Pancat's baseball bat was already swinging at Sean's head. Sean covered his head and fell to the ground, but his consciousness was still very clear. Sean kicked Pancat's calf with both feet, causing Pancat to fall heavily to the ground. Pancat's head hit the ground and he immediately woke up. Sean? You. What happened to you? You hit me, bastard. Sean's face was pale. At this moment, his head and face were covered in blood. Me? I hit you? Pancat looked at Sean in surprise. No, you've been possessed by an evil spirit. No, you've been possessed by an evil spirit. I haven't. You've been possessed by an evil spirit. Impossible, my consciousness is very clear. You're the one who's been controlled. The two of them were blaming each other, but after arguing for a while, they realized that perhaps both of them had been blinded by an illusion, causing them to kill each other. Pancat's injuries were still fine, but Sean's head had been hit by the baseball bat. Call an ambulance. If we don't call an ambulance, I'll die, Sean said weakly. At this moment, Sean's injuries were very serious. Pancat picked up the phone and dialed the emergency number. But a strange laughter came from the phone. Pancat was startled and quickly threw the phone away. What's wrong? Damn it, the illusion still hasn't disappeared. Pancat's face was solemn. Sean's expression also changed slightly. No matter what appears in front of you, no matter what I become, don't make a move. Maybe we're still in an illusion. Chapter 1450. Damn it, where did I go wrong? Pancat's expression was grave. Sean also did not understand when he had fallen for the illusion. Both of them were at a loss. Illusions were not something that could be easily used, and it was even more impossible to trick the other party without them realizing it. The terrifying thing about illusions was that it was very difficult to distinguish between real and fake. It was like seeing a person brandishing a knife at you in an illusion. You knew that it was fake. But how could you completely ignore this kind of attack? Sean held his head and leaned against the corner in pain. Pancat suddenly saw a strange smile appear on Sean's face. Sean's body was fusing into the wall. Illusion! Illusion! This is an illusion. Pancat kept telling himself that it was an illusion. Do you still think that it's an illusion? My stupid disciple. Sean's smile suddenly became strange. I've wanted to kill you for a long time, but I never had the chance. Now the chance has finally come. Kill me? Why? Pancat suddenly lost control of his emotions. Why? Because I'm your teacher, but you're even more outstanding than me. I hate people who are more outstanding than me, especially when they're my disciple. It's fake, it's fake. Pancat kept telling himself that in his heart, but his consciousness was becoming chaotic. At the same time, Sean, who had been leaning against the wall and panting, suddenly looked at Pancat with a strange expression on his face. That sinister and strange smile made his disciple feel strange and terrifying. Teacher, do you really think it's because I fell for an illusion? That's just an excuse. I deliberately attacked you and then blamed it on an illusion. A smile appeared on Pankat's face. Why? You? No, this is an illusion. Damn it. Sean immediately closed his eyes. Illusion? Do you really think that someone could cast an illusion on them without them knowing? Pancat sneered at Sean. Why did you do that? Because you've been hiding something from me. Every time you teach me magic, you'd asterisk and then bastard. And every time I ask for your help, you always ask for a cut. You greedy bastard. This time, I finally don't have to give you a cut anymore, Pancat said with a smile. Sean hid his hands behind his back and quietly took out an enchanted dagger. Reason told Sean that this was all fake, all an illusion. However, Shaoen's thoughts were already in a state of chaos. It seemed as if Pancat really was going to kill him. Puncarter pounced at Sean, who pulled out his dagger and stabbed it into Puncarter's chest. Punket's eyes widened as he looked down at his own chest, then looked up at Sean in shock. Finally, Pankat's body slumped to the ground. Xiao-En stood up unsteadily, but in the next moment he lost all his strength and fell to the ground. Suddenly, Pankart, who should have been dead, pulled out his dagger and purposely splashed his blood. Along with the blood, the last bit of his magic phosphor was also splattered. The moment the magic phosphor exploded, Pancat slashed the wooden comb on the dressing table with his dagger. The wooden comb was split in half. Everything had returned to its original calm. Pancat picked up the phone with much difficulty. Here, we need an ambulance here. Address. Address is, after all, his teacher was his teacher. He had found the reason so quickly. The moment Sean stabbed the dagger into Pancat, he told him the reason. It was all because of the wooden comb. It was also the most suspicious thing they had come into contact with today. It was not the work of an evil spirit, but the wooden comb was a magic tool. They had made a mistake when they investigated the wooden comb before. They had discovered that the wooden comb had the aura of magic, but there was no trace of an evil spirit, so they should have noticed it. The wooden comb would cause illusions to those who came into contact with it. There was no evil spirit in this house. The so-called burning evil spirit was just their imagination. When Sean stabbed the dagger into Punket's chest, he deliberately missed it and said something about the comb. Sean realized that there was something wrong with the comb, but he was trapped in an illusion at the time, so it was impossible for him to destroy the comb. Only by waking Pancat up from the illusion could they destroy the wooden comb. It had to be said that this was a very risky move. Fortunately, they succeeded. Sean, teacher, are you okay? Pancat sat on the ground with difficulty. Sean closed his eyes and lay on the ground. I'm fine, but I don't dare open my eyes. I'm afraid of falling into an illusion again. I've already destroyed the comb, Pancat said. What's the deal with this comb? The ringing of the phone woke Shara up. She looked at the time and saw that it was past 2 in the morning. Shara reluctantly picked up the phone. Hello, are you Miss Shara? Yes, I am. Do you know Pancat and Sean? I do. They are in the hospital now. Hospital? What happened? Xiao La was startled, and her drowsiness had receded quite a bit. They were in your house and then attacked each other. What's going on? That's what the police want to know. Where are you now? Do you have time to talk? I'm not in downtown Los Angeles. I'm afraid I'll have to wait until tomorrow to return to Los Angeles. Well, I hope you can come to the police station tomorrow. Cher's thoughts were a little chaotic. She vaguely sensed that it was likely that Punkat and Sean were hallucinating like her, and then they killed each other. The next day, Cher hurried to the police station and communicated with the police. Of course, it was just a simple statement. After all, she was not at the scene at the time, so there was no suspicion. In the statement, she claimed that she was only temporarily lending the house to Punkat and Sean for them to stay in her house. Although the police were puzzled by the fight between Punkat and Sean, they did not make things too difficult for Cher. Cher went to the hospital to see Punkat and Sean. Mr. Punkat, what's going on? We miscalculated. It's your comb. It's an evil magic tool. Punkat was very weak now because he had been stabbed in the chest. Although it did not hit a vital point, he had lost a lot of blood. Although he was saved, he was still very weak. Both Sean and I were under an illusion, and then we fought each other. That comb? I'm going to destroy that comb now. Mobile version. Chapter 1451. Then, Xia La came to Xiaowen's ward and he said the same thing. Xia La quickly returned to her home. But no matter how she searched, she couldn't find the comb. Just then, there was a knock on the door. Xia La came to the door and saw 2 policemen outside. Hello. Xia La realized they were the 2 policemen who had taken her statement at the police station. Hello, Miss Xia La. This morning, we took some things from your house for inspection and fingerprints. I'm sorry we didn't tell you beforehand. Now, the things have been returned to the owner, one of the policemen said. Xia La saw a small cardboard box behind the 2 policemen. If there's anything missing, please contact us. If we confirm that it was lost due to our negligence, we will compensate you according to the price. Thank you. Do you need us to help you move the box in? No, thank you. After the 2 policemen left, Xia La moved the box back to her house. The moment she opened the box, Xia La's expression changed. Because Punkat and Sean had told her that the wooden comb should have been broken. But now the comb was placed perfectly in the box, wrapped in a plastic bag. Xia La was shocked and quickly took a few steps back. Suddenly, Xia La felt something behind her. She turned around and saw the 2 policemen standing at the door. They had a strange smile on their faces. Why are you here? The 2 policemen slowly raised their heads. Their pupils rolled up and they still had that strange smile on their faces. Xia La realized something was wrong. The 2 policemen had also touched the comb. Then the 2 policemen pulled out their guns. But they didn't aim at Xia La. Instead, they aimed at their own temples. Bang, blood and brain matter splattered in front of Xia. Xia La was so scared that she lost her mind. She sat on the ground and screamed in fear. But the next moment, Xia La raised her head again and realized the 2 policemen's bodies were gone. There wasn't even a trace of blood at the door. Illusion. The hallucination came again. Xia La was about to collapse. She ran out of the house. She didn't know where she was going or where she should hide. She just wanted to escape this place, escape this nightmarish home. Xia La fled in all directions in a panic. But in the community, everything was peaceful and peaceful. It was completely out of place with the terrified and uneasy Cher. Cher also calmed down a little. At this moment, a ball rolled past Shayla and onto the sidewalk. Shayla turned around and saw a little girl standing there. Sister, can you help me pick it up? Just as Xia La was about to walk over to pick up the ball, she suddenly heard the sound of a car braking. Xia La turned her head and saw a car coming towards her. Hey, Qin, did you know? Sherlock's in the hospital. Qin Zhao was stunned when he received Four's call. Cher had just left his house today. What happened to her? Car accident. The culprit said that Xia La suddenly ran into the motorway, and the car behind her couldn't stop in time. What's the situation now? He just came out of the emergency room. He's still alive for now, For said. Then I'll go see her, Qin Zhao said after some thought. Although he did not have a deep friendship with Xia La, they were at least friends. Plus, Cher had helped when Fei Lai was in labor. Qin Zhao told Fei Lai. Fei Lai also wanted to go see Shara. After all, she was closer to Shara. Shara had been at their house yesterday, and Fei Lai had a good conversation with her. Chen Zhao had no objections. He brought Fei Lai and the two kids to the hospital. For Fei Lai and I are at the hospital. Which room is Shara in? Room 309, for said over the phone. Chen Zhao's family went to room 309, but they did not see Shara. There were traces of someone lying on the bed, but Shara was nowhere to be seen. Where did Shara go? I don't know. Maybe she went to the toilet. Chen Zhao shrugged. Let's wait. He thought that Shara would be back soon, but after 10 minutes, she still did not come back. Chen Zhao could only call 4 again. 4, Shara isn't in the room. We've waited for 10 minutes, but she's still not back. Did she go for a checkup? Let me check. 4 was also confused. A few minutes later, she replied, No, I checked. Shara didn't go for any checkup. She should be in the room getting in 4. Chun Zhao looked. The 4 stand was still there, and so was the 4 bottle. However, Shara was not there. No. Wait, I'll come. A while later, 4 arrived. Seeing the empty room, she was also confused. That's weird. Shara is so badly injured. Where could she go? 4 took out her phone and called Shara. Shara, what's wrong? Where are you? I'm discharged. It's urgent. With that, Shara hung up. 4 looked at the phone. What's wrong with her? She's so impatient. She hung up right away. Is she in some trouble? Chun Zhao asked. No, what trouble can she have? She's the best anesthesiologist in our hospital. Her income is even higher than mine. In America, doctors were high-income people. Among doctors, anesthesiologists, and dentists had the highest average income. An extremely skilled anesthesiologist like Shara could earn close to $300,000 a year. In 4's opinion, Shara had a proper job, a stable income, no bad habits, and a high EQ. She probably wouldn't cause any trouble. But her leg injury is really serious, 4 said. She can't leave the hospital alone. Let's go check the surveillance, Chen Zhao said. Not everyone could see the surveillance, but Chen Zhao still had some privileges in Chantilly Hospital. So they quickly saw the surveillance. 2 patients had come to Shara's room. One had gauze wrapped around his head, while the other had gauze wrapped around his chest. Not long after entering the room, they pushed Shara out in a wheelchair. Was Shayla kidnapped? 4 guessed. They're Shara's friends. I've seen them before, Chen Zhao said. I'm still worried. I think we should call the police. Do you know where Shara's house is? I'll go take a look, Chen Zhao said. 4. Send Fei Lai and my 2 babies home today. Chen Zhao remembered that the 2 people with Shara had magical waves on them. So, he suspected that Shara had encountered some supernatural event. Chapter 1452. We have to go back as soon as possible. We have to destroy the comb as soon as possible, Sean said anxiously. Teacher Sean, what's going on? Pancat and Xiao La were originally in the hospital, preparing to recuperate. However, Sean anxiously pulled the 2 of them out of the hospital. I know what's going on, Sean said. That wooden comb is not a magic tool. It's an evil channel. What do you mean? I don't understand. Pancat tilted his head and looked at Sean. I made a phone call today and asked my friend, Sean said anxiously. That comb is not a magic tool, but a medium. Anyone who comes into contact with the comb will be marked and then killed by evil illusions. Our souls will also be drawn to that evil existence through the medium, Sean said hurriedly. Evil existence? What is that? Maybe it's the legendary demon. Sean's expression was very ugly. Does that mean we just need to destroy the comb? Maybe. Sean was not very sure. After all, he had never encountered such a thing before. All the information he had now came from his friend. The more people died, the greater the effect of the medium. Sean and Pancat had already found it difficult to resist yesterday. They had experienced the illusion produced by the evil power and knew very well how terrible it was. If they could not solve the problem as soon as possible, then they would be tortured by the evil power and eventually have no choice but to commit suicide. At least that was what his friend said. When they arrived at Xia Le's house, a trace of fear appeared on the faces of the three. All three of them had been tortured by the illusion. If possible, they really did not want to face that terrible illusion again, but they had no choice. They could only muster up their courage. "Can you walk?" Sean turned to look at Shayla. "I can," Xiala said with a cane. She had just been in a car accident today, and her injuries were still very serious. But they could not do without her because she was the owner of the wooden comb. As the owner of the medium, she had the right to destroy the comb. Pancat mustered up the courage to open the door. The room was completely dark without any light. The three of them looked at each other and finally stepped into the room. However, the moment they stepped into the room, they were plunged into darkness. "Damn it, why is it so dark?" Shayla immediately took out her phone and turned on the flashlight. The surroundings immediately lit up. However, when they looked around, they realized that it wasn't Shayla's house. Instead, it was a wilderness surrounded by knee-high weeds. There was still a dark forest ahead. "What's going on? Where is this place? Why are we here?" Both Pancat and Shayla were stunned by the scene before them. They didn't understand. They had just stepped into the house a moment ago, and the next moment they were in this strange place. All of this was too strange. Sean's expression was solemn. That friend of mine once said that if an evil existence obtains a soul through a medium, then its power will greatly increase, and it is possible to pull people into a different space. In that space, we will face that evil existence directly. What? That's impossible. All three of us who came into contact with the wooden comb are still alive. How could the evil existence you mentioned obtain a soul? We weren't the only ones who came into contact with the wooden comb. Today, the wooden comb was taken away by the police. There should be many police officers who came into contact with the wooden comb. You're saying that evil existence killed the police officers. It's very likely that there's more than one. Sean's expression became even more solemn. He didn't have much hope for this operation, not to mention that they were all in poor condition. Even if they were in good condition, it would be very difficult for them to win. What do we do now? Shayla looked at the two of them in fear. "Stall for time," Sean said. "Time in the different space is slower than the outside world, but time will still pass. When the sun rises in the outside world, the evil existence probably won't be able to maintain this space, and we will have a chance to escape." However, the owner of this place clearly didn't intend to stall for time. Something began to appear in the dark forest. It was a group of humanoid creatures with brown fur on their bodies. Their heads looked like goats, and their feet looked like goat hooves. However, their hands had 4 fingers. Stillborn monsters. Sean's body trembled. What? Shayla clearly hadn't heard of them. Satan's fanatics, stillborn monsters. Pancat also had a look of horror on his face. It is said that Satan's fanatics will rape women and make them pregnant. When the women give birth, they will leave behind a stillborn child and then sacrifice the stillborn child to Satan. Eventually, they will awaken in hell and become Satan's evil servant. When Shayla heard this disgusting process, her whole body trembled. Among the group of stillborn monsters, there was a particularly tall stillborn monster. It was nearly 6 meters tall, and the 2 horns on its head were like a spiral. It held a large machete in both hands. "Prey. I have already smelled the prey. The prey has fallen into our trap. Children, find the prey and offer it to our master, the great Mikados." The 3 of them wished they could grow another leg, but they were powerless. They were all injured and couldn't move easily. Soon they were found. These stillborn monsters' vision in the dark was much better than that of humans. Pancat and Sean immediately used their special skills. A stillborn monster pounced at Pancat and Sean threw out a handful of magic phosphor. The magic phosphor instantly covered the stillborn monster. But how could these filthy creatures be killed by a mere magic phosphor? There were some burns on the stillborn monster's body, but they weren't serious. Punkat took out a talisman and shot it at the stillborn monster. The talisman landed on the stillborn monster's body, and it immediately howled. The other stillborn monsters surrounded them, but they didn't attack. Instead, they watched Sean and Punkat fight with their companions. No, one talisman can't kill it. Then use more talismans. I don't believe we can't kill it. This time they weren't unprepared. They had bought a large number of talismans. Punkat threw out another 3 talismans, which landed on the stillborn monster's body. The stillborn monster finally fell to the ground, its body constantly twitching. The other stillborn monsters didn't rescue it. Instead, they surrounded it and ate its companions. Please remember this book's domain name: 9 Heavens Godly Emperor mobile version website. Chapter 1453. Seeing these stillbirth monsters devouring their own kind. Punkat, Sean, and Shayla's faces were pale. They were already doing their best to deal with a single stillbirth monster. What's more, there were thousands of them here. In the wilderness outside the forest, there were terrifying eyes everywhere. This was a hopeless situation. There was no chance of winning. At this moment, a deafening roar came from the depths of the dark forest. A huge shadow swept across the forest and appeared above the wilderness with a roar. The leader of the huge stillbirth monsters and the rest of the army all knelt on the ground when they saw this figure. Great Lord Mikadas, your servant Dagon Byros pays his sincere respects to you, the leader of the stillbirth monsters shouted. The other stillbirth monsters seemed to be unable to speak, so they made strange noises. Mikadas descended from the sky, his huge body making a roaring sound. The 3 of them were already frightened. This monster, called Mikadas, was over 100 meters long and had 2 heads. It looked like a dragon and a snake. Its neck was slender and took up almost half the length of its body. Humans, I like them, whether it's their flesh and soul. Mikadas stretched out his slender neck and went in front of Shayla, Punkat, and Sean. The 3 of them felt cold, as if they felt the call of death. I feel your fear and despair. Makata's other head stretched out. More fear, more despair. Only then can you become more delicious food. Sean gathered his courage and threw a bag of magic phosphorus at Mikadas, detonating it at the same time. But after the explosion, Mikadas was unscathed. Ha! Not only was Mikadas not angry, he laughed instead. His voice was filled with joy. Yes, joy. Did you come up with this to make me happy? Very good, very interesting little trick. Mikadas laughed and said, However, this stupid behavior offends me. Suddenly, Mikadas opened his mouth and wrapped his huge tongue around Sean. Teacher Sean! Punkat was shocked and anxious, but also full of powerlessness. They had no chance of winning, no hope. Sean had already been swallowed by Mikadas, and Shara and Punkat could vaguely hear Sean's screams. But his screams were too short. Which one of you wants to be next? I will bestow upon you the glory of becoming food. Only a ghost would want to be your food. Of course, Mikadas obviously wouldn't consider their inner thoughts. Too huge, head stretched out. Don't worry, I ate too quickly just now, so I didn't get to taste it. But this time, I will taste it slowly and let you fully experience the process of death and the pain. Siala was so frightened that she sat paralyzed on the ground. Pankat's condition was not much better than Sia La's. Looking at the ferocious mouth that was about to envelop them, the 2 of them no longer had any hope. But at that moment, Makata's movements suddenly paused, and 2 pairs of eyes stared at the darkness behind Shara and Punkat. Sorry, did I disturb you? An abrupt voice sounded. Sia La's pupils constricted. Why was this voice so familiar? Then a figure walked out of the fog. Sia La cried out in alarm. How could it be him? Chun Zhao strolled over. This place looks very lively. Did I miss something? Food. Another food? Mikados grinned. How come it's you? Chin. Xiala was also confused. She didn't understand why Chun Zhao would appear here. I got your address from 4. I thought you might be in some trouble, so I came to your house. Seeing that your door was open, I came in directly. But somehow I ended up here. By the way, what is this place? Xiala sighed. She didn't expect Chun Zhao to come here. To be honest, she had a good impression of Chun Zhao. She didn't want to drag Chun Zhao down with her. After all, Chun Zhao had 2 cute children. She didn't want them to lose their father. Human, this is my territory, and you will also be my food. Mikados stretched his head over. Xiala and Punkat realized that Chun Zhao actually didn't feel any fear when facing this monster. Bastard. Chun Zhao looked at Mikados in surprise. You have the aura of a dragon and another aura. Roar. Mikados was furious. What did you just say? Just then, Dagon Byros walked over. Human. I didn't think we'd meet again. Dagon, you know this human? The great Mikados, Dagon Byros said. This is the human who destroyed my reflection medium last time. It's because of him that your plan to descend to the human world failed. So smelly. Chun Zhao covered his nose and took a few steps back. Who are you? Do we know each other? Human, your forgetfulness can't save your life. The one you defeated last time was just a clone of mine, Dagon Byros said. Dagon Byros said, Great Makardas, please give your servant a chance to wash away the shame of the past. Go, but I want his soul. Yes, Mikados. Dagon Byros's eyes glowed green. Human, if you can defeat my servant, I'll let you leave, Mikados said in a mocking tone. I see. Chun Zhao rubbed his chin. Should I be grateful for your gift now? Shara and Pancat were both excited, but they were soon disappointed. The difference between Chun Zhao and Dagon Byros was too great. Dagon Byros was 6 meters tall. Compared to Chun Zhao, it was like comparing a giant to a baby. Such a difference in height couldn't be made up for, even though Dagon Byros had said that Chun Zhao had defeated his clone. However, it was clear that Chun Zhao had only defeated a fraction of Dagon Byros' power. Right now, Chun Zhao was facing a demon at its peak. For example, Pancat and Sean had tried their best, but they could only subdue an ordinary stillbirth monster. Dagon Byros clearly wasn't someone ordinary stillbirth monsters could compare to. Thus, the two didn't have any hope that Chun Zhao could win. Chun Zhao walked forward and faced Dagon Byros. Human, are you ready to die? I'm ready. Come, use your greatest power to kill me. Chun Zhao spread his arms. Chapter 1454. Dagon Byros spread his arms. Black clouds of air began to gather in his palms. Just then, another pair of arms stretched out from under his armpits. He also spread his arms, and 2 more black clouds appeared. After a few seconds, the 4 arms were raised high above his head. The 4 clouds of air began to close. Even Shara and Pancat could feel the terrifying aura. Dagon Byros shouted, Human, let the darkness devour you. A stone sword suddenly appeared in Chun Zhao's hand. He threw it with all his might. Whoosh! The stone sword pierced through Dagon Byros' head. Dagon Byros' expression instantly froze, and his body fell backwards. The black clouds of air gradually dissipated. Everyone's expressions froze. They stared at Chun Zhao, dumbfounded. It was over. Just like that. Where was the battle? Ravage? No, not at all. In Shara and Pankat's eyes, the terrifying Dagon Byros had been killed so easily. He died under a sword, and just like that, he was casually tossed to the side. Or could it be that this was simply an accident? Chun Zhao's victory was just a coincidence. Anyone would be able to do it, right? I won. Chun Zhao looked at Shara and Pancat with a smile. Let's go. Huh. Shara and Pankat still couldn't believe it. They turned around and looked at Mikados in shock. Makata's eyes glowed fiercely, but he didn't say anything. Chen Zhao still had a smile on his face. Shara and Pankat hurried to Chen Zhao's side and followed him closely. Shara and Pankat kept staring at Chen Zhao. "Stop! I've changed my mind." Of course, Mikados wouldn't let them go. He'd never considered this matter from the beginning. Shara and Pankat were shocked. Was that really the case? They all looked at Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao also stopped and turned to Mikados, as if he'd known this would happen. "Me too. I've decided to kill all of you." Shara and Pankat were stunned. They were also filled with terror. Kill all of them? Kill all of these demons? Kill these countless stillbirth monsters, and the master of these stillbirth monsters, Mikados? This gigantic monster? "If you can kill all my servants, I'll let you go," Mikados said in a mocking tone. This time, Shara and Pankat didn't take it seriously. Even if Chen Zhao could kill them all, Mikados probably wouldn't keep his promise, let alone whether Chen Zhao could kill all of them. Chen Zhao shook his head. "No, not just them. You're my prey too." "Roar prey? Are you treating me as prey? Ignorant and pathetic human. How dare you call me prey? Bastard, who do you think you are?" "Kill! Kill! Kill! Kill them all!" Mikados roared and ordered his army of stillbirth monsters. Shara and Pankat felt that Chen Zhao was too impulsive. There was no benefit in angering Mikados at this point. Looking at the suffocating army of dead fetus monsters pressing forward, Lin Fan felt a chill run down his spine. Once again, Shara and Pankat felt the approach of death. Doppelganger. In the blink of an eye, Chen Zhao turned into 7. Cloning technique? Pankat's eyes lit up, but soon his eyes dimmed. Even though Chen Zhao knew how to clone himself, even if he became 7, it was still disproportionate to the thousands of stillbirth monsters. When the stillbirth monsters approached, the 7 Chen Zhao raised their arms at the same time. 1,000 sword control. Gray light bloomed in an instant. Shara and Pankat's jaws dropped. They watched in shock as the thousands of swords flashed across the night sky, tearing apart the darkness. Even Mikados had a look of disbelief on his face. The stillbirth monsters were decapitated in droves. In the blink of an eye, half of them were dead. To Shara and Pankat, this was an unprecedented shock, especially Pankat. He and Sean had barely killed a stillbirth monster together. However, the man in front of him had easily killed thousands of stillbirth monsters. After the stillbirth monsters were killed, the dark lava started spreading and devouring their corpses. Chen Zhao realized that the dark aura on these stillbirth monsters was the same as the dark lava. 1 or 2 stillbirth monsters didn't have much dark aura, but if it devoured all the dark aura here, the dark lava would at least double in size. There was also the big guy in front of him, Mikados, although he was a mixed blood dragon. He had a very dense dark aura. Roar, roar, Mikados exploded. He was furious, even though he said that Chen Zhao would let the 3 of them go as long as he killed all the stillbirth monsters. But he had never planned to do that. He didn't think that Chen Zhao could really kill all the stillbirth monsters. He didn't care about Dagon Byro's death. Dagon Byros was just a dispensable existence. On the surface, Dagon Byros was the leader of the stillbirth monsters, but he was actually just managing them. Now that Dagon Byros was dead, he could choose another stillbirth monster to bestow power on. Before long, there would be a second and third leader. The army of stillbirth monsters was the foundation. But now, the dead fetus army had suffered such a huge loss. How could he tolerate this? Makata's 2 heads opened their mouths at the same time. One spat out turbid flames, while the other spat out green, corrosive liquid. Shara and Pankat's scalps went numb. Had the monster finally attacked? But the next moment, the dark lava blocked Makata's spit. "Don't worry. I'll send you on your way soon. Chun Zhao pointed, and the dark lava pounced at Mikados. Frightened, Mikados hurriedly spread his wings and soared into the sky. Chun Zhao was still slaughtering the stillbirth monsters without restraint. These stillbirth monsters were loyal to Mikados, but it didn't mean that they were fearless. Soon, they were afraid of being killed. Soon, they scattered and ran for their lives. Because of the decrease in numbers, the scene became sparse. The 7,000 Imperial Thousand swords weren't as effective anymore. Chun Zhao put away the Imperial Thousand swords. All techniques returned to one. The 6 clones and the main body merged into one. Chun Zhao looked at Mikados in the air. It's your turn, bastard. Chun Zhao was still smiling, but in Sherez, Panket's, and even Mikados' eyes, this smile was filled with malice. Are you ready to welcome death now? Mikados was about the same size as the black dragon, but the difference in strength wasn't small. The 2 heads looked quite impressive. In reality, whether it was strength, speed, or dragon aura, they were all much weaker than the black dragon. Chapter 1455. Shera and Pancat were already dumbfounded. Chun Zhao's figure flashed. Shera and Pancat felt the wind pressure from the intense flow of air. Just the wind pressure alone almost made them lose their footing. They looked for Chun Zhao again, but he was nowhere to be found. Just as they were looking for Chun Zhao, there was a loud bang in the distance. Then they saw Mikaros' huge body fall from the sky. If the black dragon had been struck by this attack, it might not even have been injured, let alone causing it to fall from the sky. But Mikaros couldn't even take a blow with 30% of Chun Zhao's strength. Just then, the dark lava surged toward Mikaros like a tide. At this moment, the dark magma had doubled in volume. Mikaros struggled wildly, shaking off the dark lava around him and on his body. But the next moment, the dark lava turned into countless blades of different sizes. Mikaros was covered in wounds in an instant. Who knew how much flesh had been cut off from his body? Roar, Shera, and Pancat were so shocked by the battle that they couldn't close their mouths. Was this man still human? Mikaros wanted to flap his wings and fly, but Chun Zhao was right above him. Mikaros was less than 10 meters in the air. Chun Zhao pressed down on Mikaros' head again. Mikaros fell into the mountain of blades formed from the dark lava again. Roar, Father, save me! Mikaros howled. At this moment, a black shadow descended from the sky and landed on Mikados' body, fusing into one with him. Chun Zhao was surprised. This aura? It was the black dragon's aura. Mikaros' aura had recovered. It was even stronger than before. But this power was external after all. It didn't belong to him. Chun Zhao didn't give him much chance. A black trident appeared in his hand. The next moment, Chun Zhao fell from the sky like a falling meteor. The black trident stabbed into the intersection between Mikaros' 2 necks. Roar, Mikados shrieked. Chun Zhao twisted the black trident in his hand and tore open the intersection of its neck. Just then, Chun Zhao had an idea. He gave up on killing Mikaros. Instead, he flew and landed in front of Mikados. Now, it's my turn to give you a chance. Chun Zhao looked at the dying Mikados. Mikados tried his best to lift both of his heads. His wounds were healing rapidly. However, his powerful recovery did not mean that he was completely unscathed. Both Shala and Pancat were shocked to the extreme. He thought that this was a situation where he would definitely die. Unexpectedly, Chun Zhao was the real monster. Mikados was scary enough, but before Chun Zhao he was like a child. Attack or defend. 3 chances. If you're still alive after 3 tries, I'll let you go. The dark lava was shrinking. Ever since its volume doubled, Chun Zhao felt that it seemed to have changed. So, Chun Zhao wanted to experiment with Mikados. Mikados knew that he was in big trouble this time, so he didn't dare to be careless. He did not dare to hold back. If he did not use his full strength, he would definitely die. Chen Zhao silently felt the changes in the dark lava. If the dark lava had been a part of Chen Zhao's body before, it was now his limbs. All this time, Chen Zhao's control and practice of the dark lava, or the dark serum, had been through Samuel. Samuel's control of the dark lava had reached a level where he could do whatever he wanted. He could also take away Chen Zhao's dark lava directly. Of course, as a projection, Samuel could not control too much or take away too much time. However, Samuel's control of the dark lava and the dark serum had reached an amazing level. Samuel could control the dark lava to simulate part of his attacks. He could even use the dark lava to simulate certain forms to release magic. Of course, what Chen Zhao could do now was only mimicry. For example, Samuel could make the dark magma imitate the posture of an animal or a human, and make the attacks of an animal or a human. However, Chen Zhao was still at the level of making the dark lava mimic objects, such as blades. This was the difference in essence. Chen Zhao still could not mimic right now. However, he could feel the changes brought about by the dark lava. The increase in his own power could bring about changes. The dark lava could also bring about changes. If Chen Zhao and the dark lava were compared, it would be like a soldier and a weapon. If the soldier's power increased, the weapon in his hand would naturally be more powerful too. And if the weapon's power increased, the damage it could bring would naturally increase too. Chen Zhao started to gather the dark lava, completely fusing it into his body and the black trident in his hand. Both Chen Zhao and the trident in his hand turned red and black. Mikados exploded with all his power. Ring of destruction. Rings of flames exploded around him. Chen Zhao was familiar with this move. It was the same as Black Dragon's. If it was Black Dragon, Chen Zhao would still be a bit worried. But with Mikado's Ring of Destruction, Chen Zhao couldn't feel any pain even if he stood still. Of course, this was also because he had assimilated with the dark lava, which greatly increased his resistance to heat. Chen Zhao moved and charged through the Ring of Destruction. He swept the trident horizontally, and the black trident instantly grew dozens of meters long. Rumble! A ravine was left on the ground, and Mikado's 2 heads were smashed into pieces. Oh no! He was too heavy-handed. He didn't even last 3 moves. Chen Zhao had originally planned to keep Mikados alive to test his moves, but he had underestimated the power of his attack. In the end, he killed Mikados in 1 move. An incorporeal figure floated out of the huge corpse. Despicable human, you said you'd give me 3 chances. Mikado's soul cursed. Chen Zhao raised his arm. Sorry, you're more fragile than I thought. Boom! The white light flashed, and Mikado's soul was also shattered by the white light, leaving nothing behind. Chen Zhao twisted his neck. It seemed like he could only test his moves on Old Turtle. Chen Zhao put away Mikado's body. He couldn't let his family eat it. Usually, Chen Zhao would have an estimate of whether or not it could be eaten. Mikados was a hybrid. Hybrids usually had very heavy, chaotic power. Humans or animals could mutate if they ate it. At least, if they didn't have enough resistance, they couldn't be eaten. But if family pets could be eaten, they were either demons or hybrids. Please remember this book's domain name, mobile version. Chapter 1456. The alternate dimension started collapsing. In less than 10 minutes, it would completely collapse. Chen Zhao frowned. Dark lava immediately rushed out from under his feet and spread in all directions. In just a few seconds, a stillbirth monster was caught. Then a second, a third, and a third. Chen, why did you catch these things? I'm so poor that I can't even cook, Chen Zhao said. I caught some game for my pets. As soon as these stillbirth monsters were dragged back by the dark lava, they would immediately be enveloped by it. As for their lives, that wasn't within Chen Zhao's consideration. It was fine as long as their dark power didn't leak out. Time was of the essence. Once the alternate dimension completely disappeared, the 3 would be expelled from this place, and the stillbirth monsters would be banished to some corner of hell. The alternate dimension wasn't big. It was probably less than 2 square kilometers. Chun Zhao's dark lava covered an area of about 1 square kilometer. After it stretched out in strips, basically no creature could escape from Chun Zhao's control. The stillbirth monsters were dragged out one by one and then enveloped by the dark lava, turning them into black cocoons. Seeing that the stillbirth monsters were gone, Chen Zhao put away the dark lava. By then, the alternate dimension had already collapsed in front of them. The next moment, the three were back in Shara's house. It was like a dream. At least for Shara and Pancat, it was a dream. Crack! Chen Zhao turned on the light. Shara and Pancat immediately felt the light. The bright light made them feel safe and comfortable. Suddenly, Chen Zhao raised an eyebrow. Your troubles don't seem to be limited to the thing hiding in the alternate dimension. Shara was stunned. Pancat didn't just admire Chen Zhao now. He even feared him. This person was so powerful that it surpassed his knowledge and understanding. After hearing Chen Zhao's words, Pancat immediately realized that he and Shan seemed to have missed something in this house. Chen Zhao walked to the stairs. Shara and Pancat immediately followed him. Chen Zhao rubbed his chin and looked at the floor beside the stairs. Chen, what are you looking at? Under the floor, Chen Zhao said. How long have you lived here? Less than 2 months, Shara said. Xiaola said. It was your payment last time that allowed me to have enough money to buy this house. No wonder, Chen Zhao said. If you stay here for too long, you'll probably die a horrible death. What exactly is here? Chan Zhao flicked his finger. The wooden boards on the ground were lifted one by one, revealing the basement below. However, Xiaola and Pancat couldn't see anything. It was too dark down there. Is there anything down there? Shayla's face was filled with fear. You'll know soon enough. At this moment, the lights in the living room dimmed without warning. The whole room was plunged into darkness once more. However, the darkness did not last long. Suddenly, a fire appeared in the dark basement. In the next instant, a twisted ball of flame crawled out of the basement. Evil, scorching flame spirit. Pancat was shocked. No, it wasn't the burning fire evil spirit, but a twisted monster made up of dozens of burning fire evil spirits. He had never seen such an ugly, disgusting monster. However, before he could react, Chen Zhao had already swung his fist and smashed the twisted monster into pieces. Sparks and ashes scattered everywhere. Chen Zhao raised his right arm. The mouth of gluttony absorbed. Delicious! The mouth of gluttony sensed it. Pankat's face was filled with shock, but he quickly regained his composure. Compared to the countless stillbirth monsters and Mikados, this twisted evil spirit did not seem that scary. Since Chan Zhao could easily deal with Mikados and the army of stillbirth monsters, it was not surprising that he could destroy this twisted evil spirit. The lights in the room lit up again. Mr. Chin, what's going on? I believe you don't want to know what's going on down there, Chen Zhao said. You better call the police now. Call the police? Xiaola was still confused. And sue the person who sold you the house. Aye. Xiaola could not help but be curious, but she soon regretted it. Even Pancat regretted his curiosity when he shone his flashlight at the situation below. It was too scary. There were dozens of charred corpses down there. These corpses were all stuck together like charcoal, forming a hellish scene. This house could not be lived in anymore. Xiaola was really unlucky. Even if Chen Zhao solved the problem, it was still uninhabitable. Imagine having dozens of charred corpses buried in the basement of your house. Even Chen Zhao could not tolerate it, let alone Xiaola. It was not fear, but disgust. It was human instinct. Then Xiaola called the police. When the police arrived, they were also shocked. After checking, they discovered that there were 66 charred corpses in the basement. The oldest among them was at least 30 years old. Almost all of them had become mummies. Xiaola wanted to cry, but had no tears. She had no choice but to ask the real estate agency for compensation. Of course, she had just bought the house. Now that there was a problem with the house, it was easy to ask for compensation. Chun Zhao agreed to let Xia La stay for a few days until she found a new house and settled down. She did not want to step foot in that house anymore. It was too scary. She shuddered at the thought that she had lived in that house for more than a month. There were also dozens of corpses and their twisted souls that had fallen asleep with her. The three left after giving their statements to the police. Qin Zhao brought Xiala to his house. Of course, Qin Zhao did not welcome Pancat, even though Pankat's tone implied that he wanted to get to know Qin Zhao better. Qin Zhao ignored Pancat. They were not familiar with each other and did not interact much. Enjoying the night sea breeze on the highway, Xiala asked curiously, "Mr. Chen, are there many people like you?" "I have quite a lot of friends like you," Qin Zhao said. "How about compared to the supernatural organization in Los Angeles?" "Huh. You know about the supernatural organization? I once attended a class under Pancat and Sean's guidance. You don't know Sean, right? He also fell into that space and was eaten by that monster. I'm the president of the supernatural organization." Xiala was stunned, but she quickly understood. This did not surprise her too much. A powerful existence like Qin Zhao was completely different from a wild spiritualist like Pancat. Therefore, it was not strange that Qin Zhao could lead the supernatural organization.